Good morning. Happy Monday from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Will Bowling. Today at 11 a.m. Central, legal tampering begins in the NFL. And over the weekend, there were a lot of headlines as teams prepare for the start of free agency. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they started free agency last night, acquiring wide receiver DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks for a 2025 second-round pick, signing him to a 5-year, $150 million contract. He requested a trade back on March 5th as he entered the final year of a 3-year, $72 million extension signed in 2022. Six-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Davante Adams agreed to a 2-year deal with the LA Rams, they announced Sunday. Last season, he had 67 catches for 854 yards and 7 touchdowns in 11 games for the Jets. Former Titan Harold Landry has agreed to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with the New England Patriots and head coach Mike Vrabel. Landry led the Titans with 9 sacks last season and posted 15 tackles for loss and 15 quarterback hits in 17 starts. It was his third consecutive year with at least 9 sacks, including a career-high 12 in 2021. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. RKW kicking off a Monday morning edition as NFL tampering and free agency begins today. They'll call it tampering. They'll call it all the things except for just free agency. But that's really where we are today on March the 10th, beginning a new week. 615-737-104.5. No Ramon this morning. He is out until Wednesday. Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Justin Hawkins hanging out with you. And streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV. Kayla, let the games officially begin.
Yeah, should be an exciting couple of days. I know I was already busy last night, glued to my computer for about 2 hours with the continuous stream of news coming out of everywhere in terms of insiders. So that was interesting. And I'm sure that we're going to get a lot more, like you said, with the official tampering period starting up at 11 a.m. Also, wanted to give a shout out. Saw your dad this weekend at the TSSAA basketball championships down in Cookeville. Cookeville did an awesome job, by the way. I had only been to Murfreesboro, so that was my first time in Cookeville covering it. Really great job by everybody there, including your dad, who I think had done like 10 straight games up to that point, and then obviously did the 2 others after I did. But PCA getting it done against BGA was an incredible game. BGA fought till the end, so congrats to PCA on the championship. And the Webb girls out of Bell Buckle, their assistant coach Terrence actually listens to us.
Nice.
And when I went over there to meet Coach, he said, "Oh, by the way, I love your guys' show." And I said, "Man, all the way in Bell Buckle, like chiming in, really appreciate it." So that was really cool, and bumped into a lot of people who listen to the show. So thanks again for everybody who listens, and great event put on there, and congrats to the teams.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Tennessee Tech does a good job with the D2 championships.
They really do. It's a cool gym. They just redid a lot of the seats and stuff in there, so it's good looking.
Well, that's much better than what happened in my weekend. So I had a wedding for a high school friend in Chattanooga this weekend. It was very fun, but it did not begin well because I got all the way there. And we often, doing mornings, we sneak in power naps when we have a couple minutes. And, as a guy, putting on a suit and getting ready to go to a wedding takes me about 10, 15 minutes. Like I can go from asleep to in a suit and in the car going to a wedding within maybe 20 minutes at the absolute most. So hop in the shower, get ready, grab my shirt, which I'd already put in the bathroom. It always steams it out. It gets all the wrinkles out. Open the little closet thing, and my suit pants are nowhere to be found. Absolutely nowhere to be found. This was we were 30 minutes away, 25 minutes away from the venue. The wedding was starting in about 40 minutes. So I look online. I see there is a Walmart Supercenter a half mile away from our hotel. I go to it. I buy the first navy pants I can find and made it 2 minutes after the wedding started. Nobody could tell until I told them, and it ended up worked out. So I'll give a shout out as well this morning to the Walmart Supercenter in Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga, making it work over the weekend. It was quite the fire.
You got lucky having that then.
Extremely lucky, yes.
Because what would you have done, Will? Like, let's just throw
Not
a hypothetical out. Yeah, I was going to say, what could you have done,
gone
right?
into, we were a little bit outside the beaten path in Chattanooga, and so I was like, well, I could go into downtown,
right,
and just go to the reception. Probably what I would have end up doing. Because if it had been local, obviously, like I could have gone home or I could have just figured something out.
Easy.
But like, we went all that way. It was like, all right, well, make this work. So shout out to the Ben Hogan 1999 Navy athletic wear golf pants. It actually worked out very well.
I was going to say, I saw pictures, so I would never have noticed.
I was like, I'm one that does not deviate from like the old school rules you're supposed to have, like never mix like a suit jacket with any other kind of pants or like vice versa and all these things. So it worked out, but.
Well, I'm glad that it worked. The wedding looked great, by the way. So as long as you were able to go, then you made it work, thanks to Walmart. And this show's not sponsored by them, but hey.
Yeah, free shout-outs always for the first segment. Then we wake up and realize we're not supposed to do that. But yes, very fun. Very fun time, and good to see some high school friends over the weekend. 615-737-1045 today. We are pretty open to hear whatever is happening in the NFL and react to it as it happens this morning. But there was a lot over the weekend that happened, starting on Friday when Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders, something that we told you on the show would make a lot of sense contractually. That happens, and now Sam Darnold, well, we don't know where he's going because Seattle is in the mix. Pittsburgh is now reportedly in the mix. Vegas, no longer in the mix. There is a ton to sort through this morning.
It is wild, and like when I learned about the Geno Smith news, we had talked about it on Friday being a possibility. And then, boom, the move happens shortly. What day was that? But it just felt like it. Yeah, it just felt like it sped up in terms of the process. And obviously, me being a Seahawks fan, I was reaching out to some people up there, and they were shocked as well that it happened that fast because there was obviously swirling rumors about it happening. And I guess that they had tried to offer Geno Smith a deal. And lo and behold, Pete Carroll down there in the Raiders decided we're going to bring Geno down here no matter what. So I don't know if the Seahawks had a really solid plan. Like, I do think they thought they were going to get Geno Smith back there. But now, in my opinion, like they got to go all out for Sam Darnold at this point, Will, and he's got other people, like you just said, pursuing him. It's
going to be interesting. I do think it gives us a little bit of indication on what Sam Darnold's market is. Reports out of Seattle say that they wanted Geno Smith for a deal closer to $35 million per year, and that Geno Smith's camp was pushing for an average of $45 million per year.
Yep.
If the Seahawks are wanting to pay Geno 35, I would imagine that means they think they can get Sam Darnold for around $35 million, which is exactly what we said as well. Look, if Minnesota can't get Darnold for 40, then Darnold's not going to sign for 40 because if he could, they would have tagged him and traded him and gotten something for him.
Exactly. And I think that's where we start to whittle down, okay, what are the viable options for Sam Darnold? Because I don't want to take the Titans completely out of the mix, but when you do listen to a lot of the reports, he is being tied more so right now to Seattle's the newest one, but he's also still being tied to,
Pittsburgh.
What else is up? Pittsburgh.
Is the other new one.
Yeah.
According to Diana Rossini last night.
They just got a new wide receiver. Also, Seattle losing DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh where they're unsure of their situation.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. And Aaron Rodgers is still in the mix in a couple places. Obviously, the Giants are looking hard at him. I've also heard now the newest from Diana Rossini is even, the Seahawks possibly could be interested in him. Who's he going to throw to? I don't know because there's no receivers left except for Jackson Smith and
Jigba is right there.
Yeah, but
probably Ted McMillan soon too.
I'm interested. I think wherever he goes, and it will probably happen soon, that's going to set everything else in place. Like, we just need to find out that part. But at this point, what are the Titans' realistic options? That's my question when it all comes down to it. Is what will the Titans do if they sign their quarterback in terms of a bridge and don't draft one? I don't know. It's bleak. It's not great.
I mean, you are certainly not living in the top of the NFL quarterback market. If you are not in for Sam Darnold, then pretty much everybody else beyond Darnold is a tier below. Then you have the tier of Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, if he becomes available. But again, Falcons are still insisting that he is not available. And players like that. Jameis Winston, I would say, is probably a tier below that. And that is where you have some other names. We do have a little bit of reporting, though, this morning that we can get to coming up next. Buck Rising is hearing two names for the Tennessee Titans at quarterback, and none of them are ones that we have mentioned so far this morning. 615-737-1045 is our number. We stream the show live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. If it's not Sam Darnold, who do you want at quarterback? Open for your phone calls at 615-737-1045. We'll tell you the two names in the mix according to our own Buck Rising coming up next. Monday morning, kicking off the week on RKW. We are brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Visit your local Middle Tennessee Scooters locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Will Bowling and Kayla Anderson hanging out with you this morning. The Titans, according to our Buck Rising, have two names at quarterback. Buck's specific words, so I'm getting this right. Two names I've heard around Titans' interest: Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. How do we feel?
Yeah, and right before we went to break, I was actually going to bring up a name that I think people have randomly brought up over the last week or so. One of those has been Mac Jones for sure, or excuse me, Zach Wilson for sure. Mac Jones is a name that I think some people forgot, like what his deal was, because he was obviously in Jacksonville last year backing up Trevor Lawrence and came in when Trevor left towards the end of the season with that injury after he was hit hard in that game, but he also was dealing with some other stuff. The thing about Mac Jones is I look at both these guys actually as former first-round picks that in their first stops, and now Mac Jones obviously has a second landing spot he's been in, have not really worked out. And they have been backups recently. And I look at Brian Callahan, and always the indications from him is he loves to develop a quarterback. I've said it so many times on this show because that's really what he takes pride in doing. Now, he has not been able to do it here with Will Levis, but maybe if he gets his pick of the litter, he still looks at a Mac Jones or a Zach Wilson as being two guys that could reignite their careers. And I don't think the potential is there, at least right here in Tennessee, because I just don't think you're surrounded by enough to rejuvenate someone's career like maybe Sam Darnold did up in Minnesota.
Sure.
And I think in a way that's maybe what Brian Callahan is thinking. If that's the case then, Will, and you bring one of these quarterbacks in that's not really necessarily a veteran yet in the league, then you might as well make it a young person's quarterback battle here. Draft Cam Ward, bring in Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, and then you got Will Levis. Because at this point, Will, that's what it's telling me, is no matter what, Brian Callahan wants to develop a young quarterback. And if you're going to do it, I feel like, and you have the number one overall pick, then bring in the guy right now that you feel like has a ton of potential. And I know these guys still might, but I don't know. I just don't see them rejuvenating their careers here.
Mac Jones and Zach Wilson is a pretty sad way to start legal tampering. I mean, honestly,
yeah,
a year ago.
It's the bottom of the barrel.
And again, like a year ago, the big names and the big money and the free agency didn't get you much. I mean, it got you the number one pick. It got you 3-14. But man, what a difference a year makes. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about this team surrounding Will Levis with weapons, and we're going to sign some linemen and maybe, bring back some good players, and it's running backs, and it's Calvin Ridley, and no. This year you get Zach Wilson, and you get Mac Jones. What a sad difference a year makes. Let's just start there.
It's like the trombone sound.
You are in a bad place as a franchise when those are your two options.
Yeah.
So I think there are two things potentially going on here. I think, A, there aren't any good options. Let's be honest. I mean, if you want to go with the great veteran quarterback, Sam Darnold is pretty much all you've got this season. That is really your only choice, and you're going to have to pay, and you're not the only one that's in the mix. And as new teams enter the market for Sam Darnold, perhaps he does get closer to the $40 million a year market and is in a world where the Titans are saying, you know what, we don't have the pieces to justify spending that much money and putting it on the 2027, 28, and maybe even 2029 caps. I get it. I would like to do that compared to the other options, but that's almost more of an indictment on the other options than it is on Sam Darnold being such a perfect fit. So let's just put the Darnold thing to the side because I don't think that's happening now for the Titans.
No.
This either means that Cam Ward's going to be a Titan or, maybe it's just an indictment on the options you have, because Zach Wilson and Mac Jones have one thing in common. It could be the Titans saying, you know what? Why get Sam Darnold when we can get Sam Darnold at home? Let's create the next Sam Darnold versus boxing ourselves into a guy who might not be able to replicate the success he had last year here. That's the interesting thing is I just think this could be also more of a reflection on how bad the free agency market really is.
And I think it is a down year. And when you really, though, think about quarterbacks, that hit the free agent market, and I'm not talking about trades. Trades are different, but free agents that hit the trade market, they don't usually go on to have a ton of success usually. Overall. Trades, yes. Free agency market, there's a reason why these quarterbacks hit the market in the first place. And this year, it's even worse than ever because I think what you have is two different types of quarterbacks. You have the projects where it hasn't worked out in their first spot and they're somewhat young still.
Yep.
And then you've got the oldie quarterbacks that may have one more year in them, but they've got to go to a really probably good scenario to make it work because they are old and they're less mobile and all the things that come along with that. So there's nothing in between. And you're right, Will, when you're the Tennessee Titans and you can't necessarily, you can pay the most, but it doesn't look like they're going in that direction in terms of just paying Sam Darnold all this money. But you don't have any really options at home. It's like it doesn't leave you with much. And so that's why the drafting a quarterback becomes more of the obvious, I think choice. But at the same time, I know there's going to be people that argue, well, we're going to ruin the quarterback if we draft them over number one overall because there's nothing here.
Right.
To surround him with.
And that's the boat that I'm in. I mean, I've seen this franchise bring in quarterbacks and ruin them. And I feel like a player that has a problem playing hero ball against a pass rush or when things break down, it's just Cam Ward is so off structure that I am concerned about him coming into a place that has very, very little structure. I know those are a little bit two different things, but within the structure of the offense, Cam Ward doesn't do much. He makes his best moments when things break down. Well, things are going to break down a lot here is my struggle with him. Warren Sharp put this out over the weekend talking about just a reminder for anyone thinking a free agent quarterback will come in and take their team to new heights. This is every free agent quarterback to sign for $15 million plus a year over the last decade. Kirk Cousins last year in Atlanta, Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo in 2023, Carr in New Orleans, Garoppolo in Vegas. Jimmy G did not last long there. Derek Carr has put up decent numbers, but New Orleans has not been good since he went there. 2022 and 2021, no quarterback signed for more than $15 million a year. In 2020, Tom Brady. That's the only really good example on this entire list. Mm-hmm. Phillip Rivers in Indy. Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina, which I forgot Teddy Bridgewater signed for $15 million plus a year.
I forgot about that too.
In 2020. Nick Foles in 2019 with Jacksonville. Kirk Cousins again in Minnesota. That one worked out okay.
Yeah.
Worked out fine. Sam Bradford in Arizona.
No.
Case Keenum in Denver. In 2017, Mike Glennon in Chicago. And in 2016, Brock Osweiler in Houston.
Yeah. There you go.
So that is the market of quarterbacks who have signed for $15 million plus a year over the last decade.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a bad class as it is, but it doesn't work out usually. And that's the struggle here because the most important position that the Titans have been trying to figure out for the last couple of years, they still don't know what they're going to do with it. And it's hard for anything else to kind of fall into place when you just have no idea who the quarterback is. And we're seeing it right now somewhat in Pittsburgh where they don't have a quarterback yet, right? However, look at what is there around them. I mean, their defense, they just got an additional piece to their offense. Mike Tomlin is a steady Eddie, like he's been there forever. We know who Mike Tomlin is. We're still trying to figure out exactly the identity of this team under Brian Callahan in his second year. So there's so many gray areas, Will, but the quarterback is the piece that binds it all, and they don't even have that.
Yeah. It's going to be a challenge. I mean, at this point, again, starting the morning with Buck Rising saying he is hearing Mac Jones and Zach Wilson for the Titans.
That is just like, you talk about diet Dr. Pepper,
This is Dr. Thunder.
Exactly.
The Titans are looking for Dr. Thunder if Sam Darnold is Coke or Dr. Pepper this morning. 615-737-1045. We have a poll up at Remote Kayla Will on Twitter asking the people, which quarterback would you rather start in 2025? Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Will Levis, or Cam Ward? 73% of you would just rather see Cam Ward play for the Titans this year.
That's where it's
not surprised at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting to that point. Maybe if you didn't think the Titans should draft a quarterback number 1 overall, you start to hear these options at this point. And Will Levis, by the way, is still an option for this team, considering he's the only quarterback on the roster right now. So you have to consider him an option. But I think that's, Will, why we're seeing more people just say, well, I guess just draft the quarterback then. Because there are no other options that have been linked to the Titans in the last few days.
Going to be interesting to see how patient this organization is willing to be. Everything we hear about what Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker and the Titans want to be is methodical, is patient, is not settling for the big splash and the big, as they said it, we want first downs, not touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That includes what they do with the number 1 pick and who they could sign at quarterback, because they only have available to them who is available to them. Right. That sounds really obvious, but they can't just conjure up a good veteran starting quarterback in this free agency market. Mm-mm. So how does that impact your number 1 overall pick? The fact that you don't have a great option. Are you willing then to be patient enough to trade the number 1 pick or draft Abdul Carter and go with Mac Jones or Zach Wilson? Because if you do that, there is no hope. There are a lot of empty seats, and there is not a lot of marketability to say that we are relevant until at least 2026. Are you willing to stomach that if you are Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, because it might get your head coach fired?
And a lot of things right now could get Brian Callahan fired.
100%.
It's a really tough situation for him to be in. But again, he took this job. He knew what he was getting into last year with Will Levis being the guy that they wanted him to work around, and it didn't work out. Will, at this point, I'm a little worried if they don't just go for the quarterback at number 1 overall. And I understand the building a team and having a base and getting the most draft picks. I get all of that, but at the same time, it would feel a lot better if they knew exactly who their quarterback was going to be. And that quarterback, if you're bringing in somebody who's been another place before, had done something to excite people. But unfortunately, that is not the scenario with Mac Jones or Zach Wilson in this case. And so, in my eyes, your next best option to at least give a quarterback an opportunity, although it might take a couple years, and get some excitement drummed up around a team right now that people don't even know half the players.
Right.
And, we don't know who they'll re-sign in free agency. You've got to make a logical decision in that aspect too. And by the way, Amy Adams Strunk is still the owner. And I don't think that she wants the empty seats in Nissan Stadium over the next couple of years, even leading into that new stadium. You want to have somewhat of momentum.
It's just tricky because you can't draft Cam Ward just because there aren't any good veteran options.
Right.
Like, Cam Ward is not a 2025 decision. Cam Ward is a 2025 through 2029 decision, you hope, if he has 5 years and you want to pick up his 5th-year option. Like, that's the tricky part for me. I would love it if there were better veteran quarterback options out there, but there aren't. To me, that doesn't mean you just have to go get Cam Ward, though. I really don't think so. Like, the evaluation of who you are as an organization and what you think Cam Ward is has to happen in a vacuum compared to what the other options are. Because that is how you overdraft and you draft yourself into a Zach Wilson the first time around with the Jets. And I'm not saying that Cam Ward is Zach Wilson. I'm saying that when you have to have a quarterback and you just go get the first one available to you, I don't think that's a good place to be as an organization. I really don't.
It's not, Will, but they have put themselves in this pickle. They have put themselves in this position.
Then don't double down.
And that's why it's going to be fascinating if they do indeed find a partner, by the way, to trade back with, and they have one of these Mac Jones or Zach Wilsons come in and compete with Will Levis, and maybe you bring in Mason, right, Rudolph, as a veteran guy. But there are going to be a lot of unhappy fans, and maybe Brian Callahan sees something in one of these guys that he feels that he can help regrow their careers. But right now, at face value and seeing what they haven't done in the last few years of their careers, what's leading me to believe that Brian Callahan can do it? If he didn't do it with Will Levis, I just don't know if Mac Jones or Zach Wilson are the answers either. And then you're just going to have the most disgruntled fan base checked out 3 games in. Who's the answer then, Will, if it's not them?
I mean, it's a good point, but I just don't think you can try to appease the fan base at the beginning of a rebuild like this, because regardless of what you do, we're all going to have to stomach some losing to get this thing right again. And when you try to turn things around so quickly and be relevant in a very short amount of time, you end up 3-14 last season with a bunch of veteran deals that are inflated and guys that you're trying to trade at the trade deadline again. So that's the challenging part of trying to just put butts in the seats. That's how you end up with Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed, honestly.
Yeah, and
this is a rebuild. There is no doubt about it.
No doubt.
This is, I mean, there's no there's no running from it anymore.
Say it with us, folks. Rebuild, and it's tough to swallow. It's a tough pill to swallow right now because it's probably one of the tougher types of rebuilds, just because you don't have the quarterback solution. And I'll still look at this situation if you do take, Cam Ward at number 1, since he seems to be the one that they would favor over Shedeur right now. And Shedeur Sanders, by the way, reportedly visiting today for a top 30
Hello, Shedeur,
visit.
if you're listening.
Yeah. Hello, Shedeur. Welcome to Nashville.
He's not listening.
But yeah, I would say, Will, the only thing with that too is, you get your quarterback for cheap right now too. Because, it's a rookie, right? Yep. And you have a little bit of wiggle room, at least money-wise, to deal with. So, yeah, I guess that's another spot where I would say maybe they'd look at that as a positive.
It'll be interesting. Between Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, who would you prefer out of those two? Again, if you missed it, Buck Rising saying this morning, those are the 2 names he is hearing around the Titans quarterback search.
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's almost a little bit of a flip of the coin. I will say this firsthand, just in terms of the person. I've met Zach Wilson when he attended the tight end U camp when he was with the New York Jets. He was a really nice guy, real cool guy, visited with us. Seems to be a good teammate from all we've heard. But when I look at his stats just straight up, it's tough. He's never had a completion rate over 60%. He even the year before when he was with the Jets and Aaron went down after the 4th snap of the game, he had a chance to even kind of rejuvenate himself then when he would been labeled the backup. And he just couldn't get it done. And that was a good defense as well. And I know the line's not been great there, but if it wasn't good here or there, it ain't good here. And then you look at Mac Jones. I'd take Mac Jones just slightly above Zach Wilson just for the fact that when he came out of his rookie season, it was pretty decent. He threw for almost 4,000 yards, had a 67% completion rate. He did throw for 13 interceptions. He's always been a double-digit interception guy except for last year, but he only played in 10 games. He didn't look great last year, Will, but I will say I feel like there is a part of Brian Callahan that could see a rebirth in Mac Jones like a Sam Darnold.
I think Mac Jones is the better scheme fit for Brian Callahan.
Sure.
I don't think either of these guys are going to touch what Darnold did in Minnesota last year.
Not even close.
Yeah, no.
What Darnold had, Will. Let's just, what did he have? He had Kevin O'Connell.
Just Jefferson,
really
Jordan Addison. It's like
weapons.
You are looking more for a Joe Flacco in Cleveland stability than you are a Sam Darnold and Minnesota stability at this point. I think Mac Jones, somebody's got to be a scheme fit for Brian Callahan. I mean, if it's not the guy you're drafting, if it's Cam Ward, you're going to have to mold him a little bit into what you want him to be. We know Will Levis is not a fit for Brian Callahan's offense because we just watched, 12 games of it.
Correct.
This past season. Mac Jones, to me, is the higher completion percentage, get the ball out quickly, on-time throw kind of quarterback. Does not get sacked nearly as much as Zach Wilson does. Was only sacked 14 times in 10 games last season. Zach Wilson, like you said, lower completion percentage, more high ceiling, probably. To make some crazy throws and facilitate and create in the pocket. But I'm going Mac Jones between those two, if I'm picking between those two. We have another important announcement this morning because I have been notified on Facebook Live this morning, 104.5 The Zone TV. Justin, happy birthday, man.
What? It's Justin.
How did we get 40 minutes through that? We had no idea.
Goodness.
You should have dropped a hint on us this morning. What's going on?
I'm a humble guy.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
How old are you today?
Yeah.
The dirty 30.
No, wow, that's a big one too. What the heck?
The big
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
This is what happens when we get, new people though to the show because we don't know a ton about each other yet.
Well.
So I would not have known that it was your birthday. So good thing we put it out.
There you go.
There we go.
Give yourself some horns. You deserve
Very
it.
nice. The big
Absolutely.
3-0.
Absolutely. You had any big plans? What are you doing today?
Actually, my wife and I went to Knoxville this past Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And we went to the Vol basketball game. It was
Nice.
my first
Look at
time
you.
at a Vol hoops game.
And a good one to be
You
at.
got to see Zakai Ziegler's last game in Knoxville.
Yeah, all the
that's a
emotions.
momentous occasion.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I love it. Happy
Yeah.
birthday,
Yeah.
Jayhawk.
I
Happy
appreciate
birthday.
it.
Big
Thank you,
stuff.
everybody.
Love it. 615-737-1045. There is a new team in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. Thank God it's not the Tennessee Titans, but we'll tell you who it is coming up next. RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up hour one this morning. And we are flexible today to react to all of the news as it happens. So you will want to know the latest as well. As legal tampering and NFL free agency begins today at 11 a.m. But the way things have gone starting yesterday, it pretty much has already begun. Yeah. Just the free agency part of it will start at 11 a.m. But
exactly.
Teams bringing in their own free agents and trades and quarterback dominoes. It is all falling already. No doubt about it. Adam Schefter says this morning the Pittsburgh Steelers have emerged as a quarterback option for Aaron Rodgers. My goodness. Says Steelers continue talking to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Rodgers and the Steelers are expected to talk and explore a union. The idea of Rodgers playing for Mike Tomlin is in play. Schefter adds, free agent quarterback Justin Fields has been talking with the Steelers, but needs to understand more about the Jets situation and offer that can't come until afternoon today. So these Steelers and Jets with Fields mulling options and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson waiting in the wings. Interesting.
It is interesting, and they're all a little different in terms of what you're going to get out of them next year if they are indeed the quarterback of the future. Well, short term, I would say more so for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I think with Justin Fields, you look at this, and a lot of the reports had been that the reason why he maybe wouldn't go back to Pittsburgh, Justin Fields that is because he didn't know if he for sure would have that starting job long term. And it is an interesting thing that Pittsburgh is doing because it seems to be that they're just fixing short-term quarterback situations right now there. And if they do indeed bring Aaron Rodgers in, they could still have some success, definitely. Because that was my argument, bringing in a guy like Aaron Rodgers coming off of last season, just in terms of numbers, he still is able to be a decent quarterback. And I know he's old and he can't be as mobile, but look at Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career in Pittsburgh. Like, he just wasn't that guy that was mobile anymore, but he still had the pieces around him and the defense and the coach. And I think that that's what you would see with an Aaron Rodgers coming there, even though I think it would be short term, at max, maybe 2 years. But you do have a pretty good amount of weapons there, and you've got the head coach and the defense. So I can see it working. Metcalf. That's the biggest thing they added to the wide receiver room.
My guess is they're going to trade George Pickens. I don't see George Pickens wanting to play behind DK Metcalf and putting up really much of it. No, I think they are going to try to recoup some of their, second round pick they gave away for DK and get rid of Pickens now at this point. And Pickens, who was kind of publicly he's out in the media complaining about stuff. He's a little bit of an ordeal to deal with.
Yes.
I mean, he's a Georgia player. What do you expect?
He's a Georgia guy. He's a diva.
No, I say that mostly kidding. Mostly. I don't see that personality working with Mike Tomlin and him putting up with that if he doesn't have to. And now he doesn't have to. So interested to see what happens with that. Rodgers, 41 years old, will turn 42 in December. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm looking around at my options. And it's the Jets again? Nope. That's obviously not going to happen. You're gone there. Your time over there is done. You look at QB needy teams at this point. Seattle, spoken for. It's really the Giants, the Titans, and then the Steelers.
And who gives you the best option?
I would take a significant pay cut if I'm Aaron Rodgers to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Significant.
It makes the most sense for him at this point of his career.
He's 41.
He's 41. He, just wants to win, obviously, still. Yeah. But what's the best way to do that? I think the Seahawks are a great organization, but there's nothing there right now. They don't even know what they're doing.
If I'm Rodgers,
that's a good spot.
The two options are retire or play for the Steelers.
I agree with you.
At that point, I would rather just take it to the house.
Because LA is out of the picture now.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
And Las Vegas is out of the picture.
Yep.
So this is the only one that would make sense. I agree with you, Will. I think still the Giants, he'd probably still go there, but I don't think it's a great opportunity for him to succeed in his later years.
I am rooting for Rodgers to the Steelers because, A, there's an outside chance that could get Justin Fields here, which is my first pick out of all these guys if Sam Darnold's off the board now. Granted, I don't think that's going to happen. But the main reason why I want Rodgers to go to the Steelers is it might make the Giants a bit more desperate to overpay for the number 1 overall pick.
That would be the biggest thing. Because this is really the Giants' only other option at this point. Because
Giants could go with Fields then. Like all these other options then become available to New York.
That's true. But Fields right now is talking, I think, with the Jets, right, is what you mentioned. That's where he's
potentially looking at it. I mean, nobody's talking to anybody yet until 11 a.m., even though, let's be honest, they're talking.
They're talking. They've been talking.
It is... it's wide open at this point, and these things can change really quickly.
And we also forgot about Indianapolis.
Who has been linked to Daniel Jones.
Yes. So the Daniel Jones, I know that his name brought up here. Some people liked maybe that option.
Ramon.
Yeah, and I think
who's not here to speak
I think
for
Ron
it,
Slay,
yes.
too, was in that boat. It doesn't look like he would be coming here.
Nope. So... that is the latest on the quarterback front. We go to the phone, 615-737-1045 to Andy, who is up next. What's up, Andy?
So you were talking about Mac Jones or Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Frankly, at this point, I'd be fine with either. I think the flip of the coin. I mean, you gave a little bit better stuff for Mac. But does any Titans fan think that we're going to make the Super Bowl next year? No. Even the most delusional fan is going to be like, well, we want to be better. We want anything above 7 wins is positive. So we got to look at this year as, like you said, first down, not touchdown. It's going to be a throwaway year. I hate to say that, but this is the year that if you've never gone to a Titans game, you're going to have cheaper tickets. You have a chance to experience it. Maybe if you're a fan of one of the teams that are coming to Nissan Stadium, you definitely have a chance to go see your favorite team and probably be surrounded by a lot of your fellow fans. But for the Titans, this totally needs to be a rebuild year. Let's rebuild as best as we can for the draft, try and get as many picks. That may mean we're cheering for Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson or another 1 or 2 year guy because we're either using them as a bridge for someone we picked this year, or what I think might be a better idea is waiting until next year. That sucks for Brian Callahan. But maybe he's getting reassurances from the new administration. Hey, we know this is going to be a tough year. As long as you don't go, 3-13 or 3-14, again, you're fine. So it's going to be a rough year. But I think as long as we end on a positive note, on an upswing, anything 7 wins or better, I'm happy.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate the call. Yeah, it is. It's not looking great out there, guys.
No. And with one of those quarterbacks that you just mentioned, they're not getting to 7 wins. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we spent a lot of last season saying, well, just average quarterback play. The Titans would have been 7 or 8 wins last year. I don't know if Zach Wilson or Mac Jones is average, but we can really find out if you just throw the ball to your team more than you throw it to the other team. I don't know, though. Neither of these guys really do that either.
No, they don't.
So, 615-737-1045, laughing through the pain as we roll into hour 2. This will make you feel better. Mike Vrabel has not changed at all.
Nope.
The moves the Patriots are making over the weekend give me a very clear vision on how things are going to go for Mike Vrabel in New England, and we're going to talk about that next. 7:01 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Good morning. I'm Will Bowling. Today at 11 a.m. Central, legal tampering begins in the NFL, which essentially means free agency begins today. And over the weekend, there were a lot of headlines as teams prepare for the start of free agency. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, sending a 2025 second-round pick to the Seattle Seahawks for the Ole Miss wide receiver, signing him to a 5-year, $150 million extension. Metcalf requested a trade on March 5th as he entered the final year of a 3-year, $72 million extension signed in 2022. Six-time Pro Bowl receiver Devontae Adams got a new deal, 2 years with the LA Rams. The team announced on Sunday. Last season, he had 67 catches, 854 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 11 games for the New York Jets. Locally, a former Titan is on the move to a former Titans coach. Harold Landry has reportedly agreed to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with the New England Patriots. That includes $26 million guaranteed. Landry led the Titans with 9 sacks last season and posted 15 tackles for loss and 15 quarterback hits in 17 starts. It was his third consecutive year with at least 9 sacks, including a career-high 12 in 2021. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. And we got a fresh hour brewed up for you on 104.5 The Zone. Scooter's Coffee makes the show happen. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast on what promises to be an amazing day in the NFL. No Ramon this morning. He'll be back with us after a short spring break on Wednesday. You got Kayla Anderson and myself, Will Bowling, 615-737-1045. And Kayla, Mike Vrabel hasn't changed a bit, has he?
Nope.
Harold Landry, reportedly a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. A guy that was not wanted in the trade market gets paid.
Yeah.
Again. 28-year-old, of course, led the team with 9 sacks last year. That was a low bar for the Titans a season ago. 15 tackles for loss, 15 quarterback hits in 17 starts. Is this a good move for the Mike Vrabel-led Patriots?
I think the only way you look at this overall as a good move for them is because Mike Vrabel does know the player Harold Landry. He does know that he has been a good player when healthy, maybe not the one that sticks out the most, but he knows what he's going to get out of Harold Landry. And I think when you are going to a new place, and I know he's familiar with New England, but this is, kind of more so starting from scratch. He's not taking over a team like he did here with the Tennessee Titans, where there were all these veterans and you kind of knew what you were getting to set the tone. He doesn't necessarily have that yet there. He's starting to build on that. And that's why I think we see so many familiar faces. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. But with a player like Landry, I think bringing him in is not the problem. I think it's more so the deal that they gave Landry. I think he'll be, 32, 33 when he ends his deal there.
On paper, yeah.
Yeah. I just 31. Think it's a lot of money when there's a lot of other edge guys out there right now in free agency. But again, it comes back to familiarity in this league as well. And so that is why we're seeing this move done more so than anything. But I think it will be good if he can stay healthy.
I think it's an insane deal to make if you're New England. I think it's absolutely awful. I mean, giving this much money
it's a lot
to a guy whose pressure rate was 7% last year. A 7% pressure rate. You give a guy a 3-year, $43.5 million deal, a pressure rate that has gone down pretty much every season that he's been in the NFL. Steve Palazzolo put this out yesterday. Over the last 3 seasons, Harold Landry has an 8th percentile PFF pass rush grade. 8th. That ain't good. That's like when you go to the doctor and you learn you're like your 8th percentile in weight. Like, man, you're skinny. You're doing great. When you're growing up, I mean, that's always what I was like growing up. It's like, you are 2nd percentile in weight. Okay, sounds good. I'm a beanpole. Nobody's shocked to hear that. 8th percentile. Again, PFF is not gospel, but like, let's be honest, guys. Like, Harold Landry was cleaning up some sacks that Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat created last season. He had 9 sacks, but Harold Landry was not living in the backfield. He was not a premier edge rusher. He was not a guy that looked to be very explosive. There was no get off. This is a horrible move for the New England Patriots. Because of the money. And again, the money is what it is. They got a ton of cap space. They got to pay a premium. That's not even really the biggest issue for me. The issue is Mike Vrabel still goes to bat for his guys to a fault. The same coach that is hiring Todd Downing again to help his offense. The same guy that is putting the band back together. If I'm a Patriots fan, I am shaking my head saying, oh, no.
The funny thing is they don't know yet.
No, they don't. They have no clue.
They're not that connected to what he did here in terms of bringing people or keeping people. So they're probably going to be introduced to that. And I'd say more so on the staff sort of like side of things. I think that's the thing that is like mind blowing to me. I get like you need some people you're familiar with on your staff. And there's a couple guys that are really good that I agree with. But like the Todd Downings of the world, what are we doing?
Well, and that's one thing is he's not an OC.
Offensive guys too.
You're right. The thing with Vrabel is there is this national perception out there that he built the Titans into relevance. He inherited a playoff team. He took over for Mike Mularkey, who not only got the Titans to the playoffs, won a playoff game in Kansas City before he was brought in here in 2018. So we're going to see if Mike Vrabel can really build something and not just inherit a decent thing and make it really good. And let's be honest, he elevated the Titans. He certainly helped make them better. But Mike Vrabel is not this program builder the way I think he is chalked up to be nationally and the way I think Patriots fans expect him to be. I am skeptical that he is going to be successful there. I really am. And this move is the biggest example of him still being the same guy he was when he got let go a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if he makes a push for some other players too that played under him that he considers a culture type of player for Mike Vrabel. He signed Austin Hooper yesterday, who played under him as well, who barely had, he's 30-year-old tight end. So, yes, there's a lot of pieces that are being brought back there where you're wondering and you're scratching your head, like, is this what a rebuild is? And we'll see what happens. I think Landry can be successful, but, yeah, the pay was a lot. The pay was absolutely above what you think you would pay for Harold Landry at this
Crazy
point.
To me. 3 years, $43.5 million. And again, like, this is another word of the wise when you start hearing deals come out today. They're always lower than you think because it benefits agencies. It benefits the representation to put out the biggest number possible. If all the incentives are hit, if all the roster bonuses, injury bonuses, whatnot happen, that's the number you're going to hear today. So it's really not 3 years, $43.5 million, but anything close to that's an overpay.
Yeah.
Anything close to it at all.
And by the way, I know everybody in the chat is like, oh, NWI to New England. And look, that's the big thing about NWI.
Could be.
People think that there could be a team that overpays for him, and the Titans can't match that. And if there is going to be a team, don't put New England out of the picture for that.
New England expected to be one of the more active teams today in free agency. Them and Carolina. It appears the two that are most interested in really spending a ton of money. Two teams with a lot of cap space and two teams with good young quarterbacks who were trending upwards at the end of last season. Of course, Bryce Young in Carolina, Joe Milton in New England. I'm just kidding. Of course, Drake May in New England. Although Joe Milton did give you the number 1 overall pick, so shout out to him for that. 615-737-1045. Going to talk with Stoney Keeley coming up in just a few minutes. We're going to do a free agency preview with Stoney today versus our normal draft segment. So, of course, we'll get back to that next week. We have plenty of time to talk about the draft with him. If you missed it this morning, the report from Buck Rising, or the tweet from Buck Rising today, is that he is hearing two names for the Tennessee Titans at quarterback, Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Just under an hour ago, we put out a poll. Which quarterback would you rather start in 2025? 7% of you want Mac Jones. 5% of you want Zach Wilson. 20% say Levis. And 69% of you are in the Cam Ward camp out of those four options. Interesting thing is, I mean, if you sign Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, is that guy going to start over Cam Ward right away?
It's a great question because, again, that was the whole thing, Will. If you're going to bring a quarterback in here as a bridge and draft Cam Ward, I saw it being more of a veteran quarterback. I do not consider Mac Jones or Zach Wilson as a veteran at this point. And that makes it even weirder.
Yeah, that's right. Neither of these guys are really going to be mentoring Cam Ward. I think you'd rather them stay in separate rooms.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really want either of those guys mentoring Cam Ward, if you want Cam Ward to be very good.
I'd be like, stay away. Just stay away.
Yeah. Interesting.
Don't teach him anything.
Coming up, Stoney Keeley, football and other F words. Sobros Network, stacking the inbox. You know him here on the show weekly as we build up to the NFL draft. We'll talk free agency with him coming up next. What's up? It's Will Bowling. You've heard me talk about how League Company is all you need for your home. But hey, they're also all you need for your facility. That's right. They're expert technicians on the facilities team. They have you covered, not just for HVAC, but for plumbing and electrical as well. And they can help you no matter what your business is doing, from healthcare facilities, industrial, everything in between. League Company is available 24/7, 365 to keep your building running efficiently. And hey, that is the best kind of teammate to have on your side as a facility manager, the teammate that's always going to pick up when you give them a call 24/7, 365, and they mean it at League Company. With the vehicles they have got in their fleet, you always see them driving around, those League Company vans and trucks. They've got over 1,000 vehicles in their fleet. That means when you call them, they can be there ready to help you when things go wrong, and things always seem to go wrong at the worst possible time. 615-567-1000. That's the number you got to remember, or you can contact them online at leaguecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000 or online at leaguecompany.com. League Company. All you need. 7 a.m. hour rolls on, hour 2 of your Monday morning RKW. We are Brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. As we continue our Titans and NFL free agency discussion this morning with Stoney Keeley of Football and Other F Words, stack of the inbox where you can read his work online as well. Stoney, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Will. It is a beautiful morning out here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Looks like a great morning to go get gone off that Scooters Coffee out here. So I'm happy to be alive. It's beautiful.
Well, I'm glad you are coming with positivity, Stoney, because when Buck reports this morning that Zach Wilson and Mac Jones are the two names he is hearing tied to the Titans, puts a little bit of a cloud over the sun and over the pleasant Monday morning springtime air that we're supposed to have today. What was your reaction at seeing that to start the day this morning?
It was, the bit has become too real. I've been on Football and Other F Words for weeks now, joking about Zach Wilson and Mac Jones being options for this Titans team. But over the weekend, it kind of sounded like the perception of where the Titans would be in the race for Sam Darnold had shifted. So now it's like, okay, we've still got to find somebody that might still have some upside, some young guys, and this is where we're at, Will. This is where we're at with Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, and we're going to try and get excited about it.
So, Stoney, on the Sam Darnold front, it always felt to me like if the market came down to where the Titans could be willing to do a deal that doesn't totally crash them out in 2028, 2029, and have a lot of money moving forward, maybe they could be in the mix there. But with Seattle entering the race, and now with Pittsburgh maybe even being in the Sam Darnold race, what is the market in your mind for Darnold, and is he pretty much going back up maybe to that $40 million number that I imagine would take the Titans out of the running for him?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at now. And from what I've heard, we probably shouldn't count the New York Giants out of this thing just yet. I don't think things are as hot as they are with Seattle and Pittsburgh. But you're looking at teams that, I mean, with Seattle and Pittsburgh specifically, and if you can stabilize the quarterback position, the rosters are pretty decent there. That makes it all the more imperative for those teams to actually get a starting caliber quarterback that they can move forward with. But for me, Friday night when I heard that the Raiders had traded for Geno Smith and now Seattle was shifting its focus to Sam Darnold, I kind of thought, this isn't good for any of us Titans fans that might be wanting Sam Darnold. I think that, to answer your question bluntly, the price is going to go up for Darnold when you're looking at more teams entering the fray.
Stoney Keeley of Football and Other F Words joining us this morning, as he does every morning on RKW. So the quarterback is the big issue, right? That's what they really need to figure out for first and foremost. But the other issue is in terms of the wide receiver room right now for the Titans, it's looking bleak. Tyler Boyd, free agent, probably not coming back. NWI, I think a lot of people want him back. Don't know what that is exactly. Calvin Ridley is here. He's the number one right now. Who could they look to turn to add to that room if they do in free agency?
Well, I think priority number one should be re-signing NWI. I think he had a breakout year under Brian Callahan. Unfortunately, well, I guess I should be careful and specify I'm joking when I say this. Mike Vrabel's probably going to pay him like $100 million at this point, the way they're passing out contracts. Not an official report, just a joke there. So I want to specify that. NWI would be at the top of my list, but then you look at this free agent class, and I don't think it's particularly inspiring at wide receiver. I think you could probably talk me into a Keenan Allen to come in if they're looking for leadership, culture builders, that sort of thing in free agency. Keenan Allen is a guy that has that. 70 catches, 744 yards, and 7 touchdowns in Chicago. I don't think he's prime Keenan Allen, but he could probably come in and fill the leadership role, play in the slot, and still be pretty productive for you. I've always had a soft spot for Mac Hollins. I think he's a really tough, hard-nosed wide receiver. Just 375 yards in 2024 for Buffalo, but 5 touchdowns was a career high. I think he's a guy that can contribute. But outside of that, I'm not really inspired by this wide receiver class. I still kind of feel like that might be an option for them in the draft.
The other part in terms of going out and finding somebody in free agency on the offensive side of the ball is clearly you got to add something during free agency on the line at that right side. Sure. What do you look to right now option-wise, especially at maybe the tackle position?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of really good tackles on the market. I think the top of my list there would be Morgan Moses. He's 33 years old, sure, but he's an experienced guy. He's worked with Bill Callahan before. And again, I hark back to the leadership, the polish, the presence that a vet like Moses still has some juice, too. This is a guy that has played a lot of games, even in recent years. I think people look at Jedrick Wills, Cleveland Browns' former first-round pick. He's another guy that has experience with Bill Callahan. Big, talented guy. I think he's a good buy low candidate, but I don't know that he has necessarily the polish to go out there and just 100% claim the right tackle job. Also, a guy that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about just yet, Cornelius Lucas out of Washington. Played 14 games in 2024. He's 33 years old as well, but he's a bit of a stabilizing force as well. I kind of feel like that's what they're going to be looking for at that right tackle position, is to get a guy that can come in and play and start and be reliable for them and afford them the opportunity to draft a guy that they can develop without the pressure of starting right away.
Stoney Keeley of Football and Other F Words, the official RKW draft expert, pivoting to some free agency with us here this morning on the beginning of legal tampering. So if Buck Rising saying Zach Wilson or Mac Jones, Stoney, the two guys he is hearing, out of those two, who is the better option for the Titans in your mind in 2025?
I feel like it's Mac Jones. I think that there is still some upside with Mac Jones. I know things really went off the rails for him his last little bit in New England, but he played some pretty decent football in Jacksonville. I think he's probably a better processor of the ball. I think he's processor of the offense, excuse me. I think he probably throws a better ball, a little more careful with it than Zach Wilson. I think that's been Zach Wilson's thing since he got in the NFL, is a bit of recklessness. But I do think both of these guys do still offer a little bit of upside. And I don't want to get Titans fans' hopes up like, well, they're going to come to Tennessee and they're going to turn their career around. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a chance that you could get these guys into camp and they offer a little more juice, a little more upside than going with the retreads of Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett, quarterbacks of that ilk. So I land on Mac Jones if you're asking me between those two, Will.
So if those two guys are the options, if that is the market that the Titans want to be living in, and we've had that reporting from Jeremy Fowler saying, hey, the Titans want to probably live in that middle tier, not in the top tier of the Darnolds and maybe even Aaron Rodgers if you want to throw them in there, and Justin Fields and of that nature. Does that just mean that it's most likely going to be Cam Ward, the number one pick, or can you see a world where the Titans can live in that Zach Wilson, Mac Jones tier and still be patient enough and stomach the backlash they would maybe get to still draft Abdul Carter and do those things?
It's getting awfully hard to see a path other than the Titans taking Cam Ward at number one, for me personally. But I do think that a Mac Jones type, man, I think you could tough it out for 2025, but I think it would make your quarterback need even more urgent in 2026, unless, it's that one timeline in the multiverse where Mac Jones does turn into a superstar. But, I think it buys you a little bit of time, but I don't really think it's anything more than that at this point. I think you would have to get a haul to move off of number one at this point, and I'm not saying that it's impossible for that to happen, but I feel like the paths forward are shrinking in multitude right now, and it's starting to look clearer and clearer every day that this team probably has its sights set on Cam Ward at this point, and you're going to have to give him a king's ransom to move off of it.
Stoney Keeley, our draft expert. We're turning to some free agency talk today. You can find him on Football and Other F Words. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And there are plenty of needs there as well, including the linebacker spot. And I know that Nick Bolton is now off the market. He re-signs with Kansas City. I know he was a guy that I think a lot of people would love to see come here. What are their options at that linebacker spot?
Yeah, the linebackers are getting paid too. So that's the top of this market is shaping up to be quite expensive. So I feel like they're going to be prudent in free agency. Everybody brings up the Washington Commanders and uses Jaden Daniels as the example of why they turn things around. But that Washington organization really got involved in free agency. I think they signed something like 24, 26 contracts last year. I kind of feel like that's where the Titans are going to want to go with this acquisition cycle. And so you're looking at some of the lesser-known guys that still have upside. And I look at a guy like Willie Gay Jr. and think, and the Chiefs connection is already there with Mike Borgonzi. That's where he played the first 4 seasons of his career. He's a rangy linebacker. They kind of need that opposite of the heat-seeking missile that Kenneth Murray is. Was known as a bit of a locker room guy as well. Like, he kind of fits the mold. He's not going to break the bank. It's not a name that everybody's going to get excited about, but I think that is one of those kind of stabilizing signings right there that can add to the locker room and add presence on that side of the ball as well. I also like E.J. Speed a lot out of Indianapolis. Studied his tape when I was prepping for both of the Colts games last season, and just felt, man, this guy is all over the field. How is nobody talking about this guy on the national scale? So he could be a little more expensive than I think people realize, but I like him quite a bit. And then after seeing the Super Bowl run, I don't know, maybe if it's just the Eagles rubbing off on me or what, but I might take a flyer on a guy like Oren Burks, who's set to hit free agency, that made some plays in a depth role for the Philadelphia Eagles. But another guy, like we're talking about with the quarterbacks, you know, another horse for the stable, but a guy that has upside too that could turn into something. So those would be my 3 options, because you're probably not going to want to spend the money it's going to take to get a Dre Greenlaw here.
So the edge position obviously was already not in terms of depth there. And then you have Harold Landry go, and he's with the New England Patriots now. You have Arden Key, but there has to be a plan there too. And maybe some people think that's the obvious now that they could take, I'm spacing here now in number 1 overall.
Abdul Carter?
Abdul Carter, thank you. I'm having a moment this morning. But maybe a lot of people thinking now they could just go with Abdul Carter. Is that maybe the obvious choice now when you're a little bit thin?
Well, I think the free agent market and the draft class, you look at those 2 bodies of players, I think both you should tackle an edge rusher from. I think you should pull an edge rusher from both. I don't really think that losing Harold Landry or how thin the edge group is factors into the decision-making. I think you got to get 2 starters at least, or 2 starter caliber players this offseason cycle. And the good thing is, I think there's a really good edge class in free agency. There's a really good edge class in the draft. There's going to be some old guys that are probably going to be a little more expensive. The Joey Bosa's, the Von Miller, who was just released, Khalil Mack, those types. I think your big ticket item is going to be Josh Sweat this season after what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles. But then I do think you have some really interesting reclamation projects. Josh Uche, who was once a promising up-and-coming pass rusher for the Patriots, played for the Chiefs last year, so theoretically Borgonzi knows him well. I like Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, kind of a speed rusher, has some injury concerns. You kick the tires on him, make sure those are okay. Dayo Odeyingbo out of the Colts, he's a rotational player, but pretty solid all around. And then a player I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Physical traits, a former first-round pick, which I know famous last words if you call somebody a famous former first-round pick. But He played in Todd Bowles' defense, which we know inspired a lot of what Denard Wilson does here. Hasn't been consistent in actually getting to the quarterback and having production, but has the physical and athletic traits. He's a pretty long guy. I think he could be a fun reclamation project here in this defense as well. So they do have options. I don't think that it is as dire as it seems at edge rusher.
Stoney Keeley of Football and Other F Words. You read his work as well. Stack of the Inbox, the Substack with Zach Lyons. All those guys do a great job covering the Titans and covering the NFL draft. Stoney, on the way out, of all the names we have mentioned, or maybe it's a name we've not mentioned yet, who is number one on your wish list for the Titans today of the number one target you think they need to go after as legal tampering begins?
Bring me Morgan Moses. Yeah. Solidify the right tackle position. That's where I'm leaning.
I like it.
That's my guy.
Stoney Keeley joining us this morning. You will join us Mondays leading up to the NFL draft as we'll get back to breaking down the film with him. Film he is watching and breaking down. Does a great job covering the NFL draft and the Titans. And subscribe to Football and Other F Words if you have not yet as well. Stoney, great to catch up with you, man. We'll do it again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
yes, sir.
You too.
Stoney Keeley with us here this morning, breaking down NFL free agency on the same train as you with Morgan Moses, their right tackle.
I do. I like it. I like it. The leadership aspect, he still has a little bit left in the tank, and you could still go get your right tackle in the draft and have him there to mentor a little, so you don't have to, push that guy right into it. So makes sense.
615-737-1045, wide open for your phone calls. We're going to have Bert Bertelkamp of the Vol Network join us at 9:20 this morning, but we will continue to update you on the latest rumblings from the Titans and from NFL free agency as they happen this morning. Stoney in the same camp as many of us, that it appears the Titans are getting closer to just drafting Cam Ward. It feels to me like that's the direction this is heading, right?
It does, Will, and I still have a little bit of a guard up, though, when it comes to this, because I know that there has always been talk of, even if we don't pick the quarterback, we still have to sell like we're going to take the quarterback in this draft. I think, but realistically, when you look at it, there's just not a lot of other options that make sense, and I just can't swallow the fact that Mac Jones or Zach Wilson would be the guy you'd be willing to start here and trade down to, get out of the quarterback back sweepstakes. I just can't see that being the realistic option. But again, I'm not Mike Morganzi. I'm not Chad Brinker. And maybe their plans are a lot more intricate than what I'm thinking.
Do you think either Mac Jones or Zach Wilson could be brought here to be a starting quarterback? Or are they backup QBs?
They could be here to be quarterbacks that could start because they've done it in the past. And I think that there's always reclamation projects that coaches and organizations are interested in doing. I don't like those projects. I don't think they usually end up working out. You do get the few down the road, like a Sam Darnold, like a Geno Smith, if they go to the right place with the right weapons and proven coaches that it could work out. But I just don't think this is the place right now where those guys could rejuvenate their careers.
What do you think Brian Callahan's thinking this morning?
Oh, my gosh.
Zach Wilson and Mac Jones? I think he's thinking about renting this season and not buying a house.
I would say that
honestly,
if he thought last year was stressful in terms of his job, I think he's going to be even more stressed this year. That if that's an option for starting quarterback.
It does not inspire much confidence in Brian Callahan if Zach Wilson or Mac Jones is brought in to be your starting quarterback. To me, it screams, let it be whatever it needs to be for 2025, and we'll probably have a new coach and a new quarterback in 2026.
Right, because they can be preaching, patience as an organization up top, but Brian Callahan, in the back of his mind, is preaching, I got to win now.
Right.
And I've got to have a quarterback to do that is at least somewhat, able to do the job. And I know Cam Ward, we don't know that yet.
Right.
But I still would be really willing to take the risk almost compared to just taking one of those guys.
Commenter on YouTube says Callahan is screaming to draft Shedeur Sanders. LOL. I don't know about that. I think he is screaming, can I please have Sam Darnold to save my job?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is very much the working opinion is
For
that
sure.
Brian Callahan, if he's picking, is giving Sam Darnold whatever he needs because Sam Darnold gives him the best chance to be successful right now, right away in 2025. He is the top free agent quarterback. And even if you don't want him or like him, I think everyone can admit and see that Sam Darnold is the top free agent quarterback on the market. No questions asked. That's who Brian Callahan will want. Dummy's going to get him. 615-737-1045 is our number. We'll go more headlines when we come back. A couple of receivers on the move yesterday between DK Metcalf and Devontae Adams. Who makes a bigger impact in 2025? We'll talk about that next. RKW is live on 104.5 The Zone, and we are brewed up by Scooter's Coffee. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. 615-737-1045 is our number. So wide receivers were on the move yesterday. A 2025 second-round pick sent to Seattle for DK Metcalf by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming a few days after the Seahawks dealt Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders. It is empty, Kayla, in Seattle.
Yeah, I put out that Will Smith gif the other day when he's in the living room all by himself, because that's how I feel as a Seahawks fan right now. I'm just in the living room with nobody around me. So I don't know exactly what they're doing, Will, but the point of them trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, what I thought was funny initially, Will, with this whole thing, when DK Metcalf came out the same day that they released Tyler Lockett, which they also had an issue with. He didn't release Tyler Lockett, though. They did.
Sure.
But he said, I want to go play someplace warm, and I want to go someplace where I know what the quarterback situation is, for the future. And those are two things that Pittsburgh does not have currently right now. It's definitely not a warm city when it comes to weather. And right now, they don't even know who their quarterback is, let alone who it is for the foreseeable future. But when it comes down to it, Will, money talks. And when you get a bag and you've obviously expressed that you don't want to be in the current place, then hopefully he can go do what he wants to do in Pittsburgh. And I think they will find their quarterback, at least for this season, that will be able to get him the yards he wants to get. But I was a little surprised with the landing spot.
It is very interesting. Pittsburgh, the kind of team that has been linked to a wide receiver forever. I mean, honestly, since Antonio Brown left, they've been looking for their big number one target wideout to link to their quarterback play. Interesting to me. I'm not sure how successful he'll be until I know who's throwing him the ball.
Right.
If it is Sam Darnold, that's really intriguing. Pittsburgh, according to Diana Rossini, is in the mix for Darnold. I tend to think they're just going to go back to Justin Fields or go with Aaron Rodgers. But then you have Devontae Adams going to L.A. The Rams, a 2-year, $46 million deal. If I'm Cooper Kupp, I'm sitting there like, seriously? You'll pay him? You won't pay me? I'm here. I've set all the records. I've done all these things. Who has the more successful 2025, Devontae Adams or DK Metcalf?
Wow, and that's a tough one just because you mentioned I don't know who the quarterback is in Pittsburgh. Devontae Adams is now in his 30s, so he is on the other side of his, career, if you look at it in terms of production. But if you look at his numbers from last year when he played in New York with Aaron Rodgers, his guy, I mean, his numbers weren't out of this world. He played in 11 games. He had 854 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. So they weren't awful by any means. But he had Aaron Rodgers, who he's familiar with throwing to him. So I feel like if he goes to Los Angeles and you've got Matthew Stafford, who's a better quarterback right now than probably Aaron Rodgers is, and he's really the only other weapon, it looks like, except for Puka Nacua, because it looks like Cooper Kupp will be traded.
Yep.
I could see him getting a good amount of yards there because Puka Nacua has also had some injury history. But when it comes down to it, I just think with his age, DK Metcalf in a new spot, I think he wants to prove himself on why he wanted to get out of Seattle. He had about 992 yards, so just short of 1,000 last year in Seattle. I just think the youth side of it, I think they're going to get their quarterback no matter what to throw to him. And you mentioned George Pickens might not be there. They could actually trade him away.
I think they will. Yeah.
Jeremiah Daniels said that too. Daniel Jeremiah, excuse me.
Daniel Jeremiah.
I'm flipping things this morning. He mentioned that too, that could be a possibility. So then you really know he's the number one target.
I think he's on the move. George Pickens, no doubt. I think it's Devontae Adams. I think he's still got enough in the tank. I think working with Sean McVay and working with Matthew Stafford, I think it's a really interesting fit. Really, really interesting fit. LA to me is still a team that has a window that is very much open. Very much open. Yeah. And pairing with that defense, I really do think that that's a pretty solid fit. for Devontae Adams. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Zoe, who is up next to the phones. What's up, Zoe?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing today?
We're good.
Good. How about you?
I'm good. That last commenter before break kind of stole my thunder. You were talking about scheme fit. Well, the only quarterback that's a scheme fit is Shador. There's a reason why Brian Callahan, when they mentioned him, he mentioned Joe Burrow. So I feel like that's who he really wants. So if we get Cam, I mean, that's cool too because he has potential, but somebody who's proven and also has potential, I think Shador is the best quarterback for our situation, despite his name. If any other quarterback had a reputation of training with Tom Brady all his life, it wouldn't be a discussion who the number one quarterback is, but y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Zoe.
the call. I do think that of the two quarterbacks, he is the better scheme fit in terms of what he's done. Brian Callahan, though, is on the record in saying that you would never pick a quarterback just based off of scheme fit. They want the better football player. And secondly, for the Titans, you don't pick just the scheme fit for your head coach because your head coach is not guaranteed to be there super long term. Doesn't mean they don't believe in him if they take Cam Ward instead of Sanders, but there are very few teams in the NFL that are drafting based off of college scheme fits and how that, is similar to what you want to do. You want the better player. Make it work.
What will be interesting is if they do indeed go with Cam Ward, does Shador go to the Browns?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I think Cleveland's taking a quarterback. I think that is the one thing we are most confident about today, according to the reporting. That may be a great smokescreen from Andrew Berry, but to me, it feels like the Browns either end up with Cam Ward or Shador Sanders out of this.
Especially now because, Myles Garrett just got the bag.
He sure did. He sure did. We'll talk more about that in hour 3. Your phone calls at 615-737-1045. As we begin the second half of the show, we'll dive into the Cleveland deal. I think it has a potentially major ripple effect, the Myles Garrett deal on the Titans and what they could do in the NFL draft. And we'll talk about that next.
Are you worried because your home has been on the market for a while? That gets extremely frustrating. And maybe you haven't had success in getting it sold. An expired listing can be just that. Frustrating. You get a little bit panicked, but it doesn't have to be the end of your journey. My friend Bernie Gallerani with Bernie Gallerani Real Estate has proven marketing strategies to get your property in front of the most qualified buyers to get you top dollar for your home. Bernie Gallerani has more than over 200 5-star Google reviews and over $1.3 billion in properties sold. He's going to guarantee to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he's just going to buy it from you. So to get started, all you got to do is Google Bernie Gallerani Real Estate or go to BernieGallerani.com, or you can just give Bernie a call on his cell phone. 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644.
8 a.m. from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Good morning. I'm Will Bowling. Today at 11 a.m. Central, we're just 3 hours away. Legal tampering begins in the NFL, and over the weekend, there were lots of headlines as teams prepare for the start of free agency. The Steelers, they made the biggest move, acquiring DK Metcalf from the Seahawks for a 2025 second-round pick and signing him to a 5-year, $150 million extension. Metcalf requested a trade on March 5th as he entered the final year of a 3-year, $72 million extension signed in 2022. Six-time Pro Bowl receiver Davante Adams agreed to a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Rams. They announced that officially yesterday. Last season, Adams with the Jets, 67 catches, 854 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 11 games in New Jersey. Titans outside linebacker Harold Landry lands in New England with head coach Mike Vrabel, a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. Last season, he had 9 sacks for the Titans. It was his 3rd consecutive year with at least 9 sacks. In hoops, Tennessee finishes its regular season with a 75-65 win over South Carolina. The Vols are the number 4 seed of the SEC tournament. They will play either number 5 seed Texas A&M or the winner of Vanderbilt and Texas. The winner of that game will get the Aggies on Thursday. Vandy finishes the regular season with a 79-69 loss at Georgia. They will begin their SEC tournament Wednesday as the 12th seed against the Longhorns. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Brewed up for 2 more hours, kicking off your Monday morning. RKW, brewed by Scooters Coffee. They're everywhere around Middle Tennessee. Your favorite locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Myles Garrett got paid over the weekend as the Browns insisted they were not going to trade their best player, and they played this pretty well. To be honest with you, a record contract extension that averages $40 million per year and includes $123.5 million in guaranteed money, making Myles Garrett, Kayla, the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. What was your initial reaction seeing this move happen?
Yeah, and I thought that the Browns would do something to keep their guy there. I know there were some reports that trickled out at the end of last week that, you know, who wasn't going to speak to him?
Jimmy Haslam, though.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Haslam was not turned down a meeting with him, and that kind of came into something. Berry. Right. So everybody was thinking, okay, they're definitely probably not going to get this done. But when it's all said and done, I think it's really hard to say after all that Myles Garrett has done for you, through all your crap that you've kind of gone through as an organization, he's been the steady force. And to not give your guy the deal when he just continues being productive, I'd say shame on the Browns. But I guess for once, I feel like the Browns did the right thing in terms of their players, and he makes the team better.
Credit where credit's due. The Browns did 2 things really well here. First and foremost, they kept their best player and did not let him hold them hostage. This is the difference between the NFL and the NBA. In the NBA, player says they want out, they get out. Player-driven league. The reason why the NFL, one of the many reasons why the NFL is still so wildly successful is because the teams have the power that they do. There is brand loyalty to your franchise, to your team. In league-driven or in player-driven leagues, fans create loyalty to players oftentimes before they do to teams because the players play for a different team every year. Mm-hmm. That is not a sustainable way to do business. It is not a way to create fan bases that really give a crap, in my opinion. So credit to the Browns for holding ground and doing what they should. And to say, look, why does it help us to trade our best player and make a deal that is significantly below the value of what we should get if we did trade you? Because everyone knows you want to be traded. So as soon as a player requests a trade like that, the value of what you're going to get in return drops significantly. So that's the first thing they did. The second thing they did is they hurt one of their biggest rivals. Because last season, Jamar Chase reportedly would have taken $36 million per year. So in contracts in the NFL, there is the quarterback market, and then there is the everyone else market. Just like in the draft, there's the QB draft and the everyone else draft. It is now more expensive to pay Jamar Chase because of the deal that Myles Garrett got in Cleveland. Because now Jamar Chase will be going back to his agent and saying, all right, well, I deserve to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. My price of what I would take is now $40 million. It's going to need to be at least 40.5 or 41. So honestly, credit to the Browns. I think they played this perfectly, and they really did hurt Cincinnati in the process a little bit too.
They did. They absolutely hurt Cincinnati. I think the Bengals are one of the teams that is feeling the crappiest right now in terms of what they have going into next season or just the work that they have to do. Yes, they've got the quarterback situation, but you got to help your team out in other ways, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You had mentioned that Jamar Chase report, and it goes back to what we have said on this show time and time again about, comparing an organization like the Philadelphia Eagles to an organization like the Bengals. They just don't do things in a timely fashion. They're always kind of following the trend instead of setting the trend when it comes to paying players. And again, they just got waxed in this spot for that exact same reason.
Certainly did. So, interesting from that perspective with Cleveland. Here's my question. Does this guarantee that Abdul Carter is available with the number 3 pick? Cleveland going Myles Garrett. We believe that they are taking a quarterback no matter what, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. If you traded back to the 3rd pick, how confident are you could get Abdul Carter now? Because that was the concern. Hey, if Cleveland trades Myles Garrett, logical replacement is Abdul Carter. Well, they have Myles Garrett.
I'm super confident.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's almost 99.9% that if they did trade back, probably it would be with the Giants, like you said, that he would definitely be there at number 3. There's just no other reason to think that he would go, or that a quarterback would go to, that he would go to Cleveland at this point. I just don't see that being the case when they have already shown interest in quarterbacks in this draft. I think the Titans would get Abdul at 3.
I want the deal. I want it. I want Mike Borgonzi to do it. We're about to see how good he is or how much he likes Cam Ward, first of all, but how much he really wants to move back. That has been the working theory in this city, in this market, is that plan A, the dream scenario, would be a reasonable deal for the Titans to trade back to the 3rd pick. I think at this point, you can be very confident that Abdul Carter can be the pick at 3. So again, let's go back to what we talked about a few weeks ago. If you stay at 1, it's probably going to be for a quarterback because Abdul Carter is going to be there at 3.
Yep.
I don't think there is much reason to stick at the number 1 overall pick and take Abdul Carter when you know almost for certain that you could get him with the 3rd pick.
And that's the thing that I will be completely mind blown and not have a ton of faith to start this new regime in terms of upper management if that does stick to be the case. If they would take Abdul Carter number 1 overall and they don't trade back, then that to me is like mind blowing. You only are going to stick and pick at number 1 if you're taking a quarterback, period.
Most likely. We'll see. But most likely. I'm not concerned at all about the injury. Brian on YouTube says, I don't want Carter anyway. Getting hurt twice in less than a couple months. I'm good. Travis Hunter, no matter what. The guy missed 0 games in 3 seasons at Penn State. 0. Like a shoulder injury that he played through is not a concern. And a foot problem that he didn't even feel because it's not hurting him. That just shows up on a scan as a stress buildup, a stress reaction. That's not a stress fracture that doctors tell him he doesn't need surgery on. That is nothing. I mean, that to me, that is legitimately nothing. And even if you do want him to get surgery, fine. He's ready in 6 to 8 weeks, and he's 100% ready for training camp. Like, the only injuries that concern me for potential draft picks are injuries that cause you to miss training camp. It does not appear to be that for Abdul Carter.
Yeah, and I get it. Like if you think about just breaking down these top 4 picks and you put Travis Hunter in the mix and you compare those two, they're completely different players, first and foremost.
Sure.
And some could argue that you just get Travis Hunter in here and then you decide what you want to do with him. And maybe when it comes down to it and you want to pick it apart, they're going to look at the Abdul Carter injury and say, well, I'll just rather go with the other sure thing right now that there's nothing really surrounding him. But then you could say, well, we don't know what position Travis Hunter is going to play. But I just don't think at this point, Will, you taking either of those guys number one overall and knowing what the Titans situation is at quarterback, which is nothing pretty much, you just can't take either of those guys at number one. I'd have to have them trade back to be okay with the pick of Abdul or Travis Hunter at 3.
615-737-1045, open for your thoughts this morning on where you want the Titans to go at quarterback. And as we continue to give you the latest info, we will obviously update everything as it happens this morning. Pretty open to continue to do that. Buck Rising this morning gives you a little bit of insight, if you're just now waking up and joining us, into what the Titans are thinking at the quarterback position. He says, quote, 2 names I've heard around Titans' interest, Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Diana Rossini 9 minutes ago says, try explaining the veteran quarterback market in just one sentence right now. It's impossible.
Trash.
Well, I don't know.
Whoops,
I don't know about
is that too harsh?
The word probably applies more to the 2 guys the Titans are looking at.
Yeah,
Zach Wilson and Mac Jones.
Right.
To me, I'm curious what the Titans' thinking is at this point. Are you just looking for a backup quarterback for Cam Ward? Because if so, fine. Mac Jones and Zach Wilson makes sense. Or do you just want some misinformation out there because you're really interested in one of the top quarterback options? There is a little bit of a different way of doing business out of the Titans organization that I think is already a clear departure from the way they used to be. And we're going to talk about that next. 615-737-1045, the latest of the quarterback front, and one area where I think the Titans are doing things very differently than they were this time last year coming up. Monday morning at RKW, brewed by Scooter's Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. 615-737-1045 is the number. So, Kayla, it feels like the Titans are doing things a little bit differently. In terms of who they want to sign. We know from Mike Berganzi and Chad Brinker, they don't want to be involved in the $20 million, $25 million contracts. They want to piece this thing together with one-year deals. Isn't it interesting how little we've heard, though, tangibly, about people they want and what they want to do outside of that building? To me, it feels like the Titans are really emphasizing keeping their plans a lot quieter maybe than they have been in the past. Do you get that same vibe from them right now?
It's funny because probably an hour into the show during break, we were talking and I had mentioned something along the lines of that, of, gosh, you just don't feel like there's a lot of leakage happening right now with free agency or anything in Titans camp. And I think before we were used to a lot of things getting out to certain insiders. And you looked at me and said, yeah, we're definitely actually going to talk about that later on in the show.
Those are the plans.
So I absolutely agree. It does feel different with Mike Berganzi coming in here. I know that there probably has been a reset in terms of how they want to operate. And especially right now, since they do have the number one overall pick, just keeping things in-house as much as they can with that. But yeah, in free agency as well, whatever you decide to do moving forward, it's always probably going to help a team to not have as many leaks. And when you're resetting as well, you're just trying to get things right inside your organization. Because I could say the only thing that I've really heard that I've heard other national people and local people get, and people are not going to like this, is the Zach Wilson name that's been kind of connected to the Titans. Everything else has been people's opinions.
I think him and Mac Jones both are the only two quarterbacks that have really been linked to the Titans with legitimate, tangible interest.
Because you remember last year or 2 years ago, Will, when they were looking for possibly a quarterback in the draft, and last minute, you kind of heard the things happening about them moving up to possibly get C.J. Stroud and the trade possibilities you could have in that whole thing. And I think they kind of showed their cards too soon and weren't able to get that done because of getting the leaks out there.
615-737-1045 if you want to get in on this discussion. There is a big ESPN free agency primer article out there. Every time one of these big national stories comes out, I always go to them. I hit Control F, which if you are unfamiliar, that's how you find a certain word within a document or within an article, and I search Titans. I mean, this thing has got hundreds of words. It's got a ton of info. It's predicting where every quarterback's going to go. It's predicting all these things. There was one mention of the Tennessee Titans out of all of these quarterbacks.
Wow.
And it was to Aaron Rodgers, saying he's 41 years old. He's won 5 games last season. The fact that he's second on this list of veteran quarterback options gives you a pretty good idea of what this year's quarterback market is like. He would have been in play for the Rams if they moved on from Stafford, but they didn't. The teams likely to be interested, Giants, Raiders, and Titans on ESPN.com, aren't likely to be contenders. He has to decide if continuing his career for a non-contender is worth it. And how would he react if he signed with one of those teams and it drafted a first-round quarterback the way Atlanta did last year after signing Kirk Cousins? To me, that's where I think this is heading, Kayla, is that Aaron Rodgers wants to, go to Pittsburgh where he could win, or Seattle if they don't get Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. But secondly, is going to need certain assurances that he's not going to get Cousins'd, that he's not going to go to a place that is immediately going to turn around and draft someone. To me, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I would rather just retire than go down that road and try to mentor somebody in the background, because I've just never thought that Aaron Rodgers is a bridge-type quarterback, to be honest with you.
And the only reason why I think that is this time in his career. And he has to, I know it's Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers has his own mindset. It's different than a lot of people. And he is still a competitor, and he still believes he is one of the best. So I get that. But at this point of his career, you got to take what you can get if he still wants to play. Now, right now, you just mentioned, it seems like he has more options than initially thought, because now Pittsburgh has come into play because they got their other wide receiver. Seattle's interested, even though they don't really have a ton surrounding him. If they give him the money, he in a longer deal, probably he's still going to go there, because what other options at quarterback do they have? So now that you mention all these other things with the options, it doesn't seem as likely that he would come to a place like Tennessee to be a bridge quarterback. But at the time, even last week, with not as many options, I still thought it was a realistic opportunity for him to come here, be a bridge for a year, and then ride off into the sunset. Supposedly he has a house here too, which doesn't mean much to me because everybody lives here,
right.
Who in terms of sports athletes these days. But yeah, it's more likely he's going to go somewhere else where he probably has a better chance to win now.
So Jeremy Fowler last night started the story about Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers, saying both sides have discussed a reunion and have been open to it, but Justin Fields wants to test the market to truly see how teams view him and make an informed decision. The Jets' interest has percolated, Jeremy Fowler says, since before the Combine. We should make a list on the different ways reporters report interest in a player.
Yeah.
Percolated is a new one.
I like that one. Percolated.
That is not one that we've seen.
It's not. That was Fowler who said
Jeremy
that?
Fowler last night on Twitter saying that about the Jets and Justin Fields. Adam Schefter putting out a minute ago that Justin Fields is posting in Dubai this morning, unbothered.
Yep.
By all of the rumblings and all the different things. Why do you think the Titans haven't been linked to Justin Fields through all of this?
It's a really good question. And I think for us, we've had this discussion on who we would like, who are the best options. And I do think that Justin Fields still has so much upside. And he is a guy which, when we have heard Mike Borgonzi speak about a quarterback he would like, coming from the Kansas City model, like having a little bit more athleticism. We know that Justin Fields is a great guy in terms of a dual threat, more so almost with his legs at this point. But you go back to that fitting in the scheme thing. And Callahan has said that he isn't going to just take a quarterback that's going to fit in the scheme. Like, he's just going to take the best available quarterback in terms of the draft. But does that mean the same thing when he's going and searching for a free agent quarterback? And does this necessarily mean it's the best fit here? Maybe some people would say no. I think if you just go with a quarterback and free agent, and you don't draft anybody, and you still have a guy that has some upside, I think he's the best option. He's still young. He is mobile. Like, if you're Callahan and you say scheme doesn't matter, then why shouldn't Justin Fields be a pick?
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a question mark of why we haven't heard his name at all connected to the Titans.
Sure. Todd McShay on his website, I think with a little bit of an interesting comment this morning about the Cleveland Browns, writing this, the McShay Report. I want to make sure I get the title right of his publication now, no longer with ESPN. Todd McShay mentioning the Browns as maybe another team that could trade up to number one, saying Sam Darnold does not fit given the Browns' cap limitations. But if they love Cam Ward, they should aggressively pursue him in the draft, even if it means trading up one spot to the first pick to ensure a sleeper team eyeing Ward doesn't make a deal with the Titans. I think it's interesting.
It is interesting. And I know it was not a big talk in terms of a trade. It's always been about the Giants or somebody below them. But it makes sense, Will, now that you have Myles Garrett coming back there for sure, and you've got that deal done. We just talked about it in the last segment. It seems like they're almost desperate to go get their quarterback at this point. And it seems a little weird I don't know what the history of that is, of a second, overall pick trading up to just the one spot. But I'm sure it's happened maybe a couple times. If they
going
feel
just from 2 to 1?
Yeah.
I don't think it's not likely.
Bizarre, right?
No.
It's a little bit different. But if you're really that sold on Cam Ward or Shador, I guess do it. I haven't looked at their picks yet. I can look right now at what they got in terms of picks, but I don't know how much draft capital that they have currently. But they'd have to probably give up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that's what the Titans are going to have to decide. Do we want a traditional price for the number one overall pick? Mm-hmm. Or are we more willing to compromise, considering the guy that they feel like is number one on their board outside of the quarterback draft will still be available 100% at second or third pick? Like, I do not see a scenario where the Titans are going to receive a future first-round pick in a trade. So the Cleveland Browns have 2 third-round picks this year, and they also have pick number 33. So they have the first pick of the second round. They have pick 67 and 93. That was the Amari Cooper third-round pick. They have 103 in the fourth, 167, and then they've got a bunch of sixth, and they don't have any sevenths. But they're projected to have 2 comp picks in the sixth round, and then 3 other picks in the sixth round as well.
So they have some draft.
They got multiple third-round picks, yeah.
And we, again, what's that third-round thing again? Oh, yeah, something the Titans don't have. We still go back to that, and that's wild to think about, that they don't have that third-round pick. But here's a team that has some picks there.
So at this point for Aaron Rodgers, is Mike Tomlin the perfect coach for Aaron Rodgers? At this point, with all the distractions, with all of the outside stuff, is that the right place for Rodgers if you're in his camp at this point?
It's a weird fit if this is the case, Will. But if you're saying it's the right fit, absolutely. I think that Aaron Rodgers is a man of many words when describing him. You don't quite know what rule book he follows, because I don't think he follows a rule book.
Right.
But he's one of the best to ever do it in the National Football League, and he'll be a future Hall of Famer. When you look at his success in the NFL, it's all at Green Bay, pretty much, and under Mike McCarthy, if anything. I know that he had some success with I'm drawing like head coach Matt LaFleur. Yeah. But I think the majority, you got to say, probably came from the Mike McCarthy era, and a coach that, you know, maybe gets shunned a little bit in terms of what he's done in his career. If he goes to Pittsburgh, I can see that being the situation where Mike Tomlin is set in his ways. He is not going to be pushed around. He's not going to be told what to do. If anything, Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, this is what you're going to do when you come here. We've got all the pieces for you.
Yeah.
We have proven success here. And maybe even say, hey, you can go on Pat McAfee, but we don't want any of our secrets spilled. Yeah, right. So I would say this would be the best spot for him in terms of a head coach, because there is no way Tomlin is going to let him run that organization, which we've seen in the past, especially in his last several years of his career. And Aaron knows what he would get there, too, if he decided to go to Pittsburgh.
Rodgers did win 2 MVPs under Matt LaFleur in 2020 and 2021.
Fair.
In his late 30s. The last time Aaron Rodgers was really elite was that 2021 season at age 38, when he led the Packers to a 13-3 record, over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. In that 2021 season with a quarterback rating of 111.9. His 2020 season, we don't talk about enough, though. Throwing for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Dang.
71% completion and 4,300 yards.
That's incredible.
Maybe the best season of his career, if I'm being honest. In terms of quarterback rating, it is the second best season he ever had, and it was under Matt LaFleur in 2020, the COVID year. So I really think that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers is a very strange fit, because I don't see Mike Tomlin just being cool with Aaron Rodgers going on retreats to Egypt.
No.
While everybody else is supposed to be there practicing. And Aaron Rodgers is going to have to go to somewhere where he is not familiar with all of his weapons, and he is going to have to take time to build a level of chemistry and a level of rapport with the guys he is playing with. To me, for Aaron Rodgers, it is Pittsburgh or retire. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do. Maybe Minnesota, maybe Seattle, the 2 other fits. It'd be so funny if he did follow the Brett Favre path to a T of Packers, Jets, Vikings. Yeah. I mean, go ahead and buy your Jordan Love Vikings jersey for about $20-$35. if that does happen, because that's just what Packers quarterbacks do now, apparently. But to me, Pittsburgh is a really odd fit that I just don't see. I really don't see it. I think they are going to still end up going back to Justin Fields. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going to still end up doing. Adam Schefter again with the report this morning saying Steelers continue talking to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, but Aaron Rodgers has emerged as a quarterback option in Pittsburgh per league sources. Rodgers and the Steelers are expected to talk and explore a union. The idea of Rodgers playing for Mike Tomlin is in play. To me, if I'm Rodgers, I'm the one putting that out there. Of like, hey, at Pittsburgh, if you want me, I'd take it. I don't see that as coming from Pittsburgh, to be honest with you. It could, though, ruin Justin Fields going back because Justin Fields reportedly really just wants guarantees that he is going to be the starter there.
I think that's the reason why we haven't seen that deal done yet,
Right.
Will, because I think he is skeptical.
Wants to test the
And
market.
in a way, I would be, I don't know if, he kind of knew the situation last year with Russell Wilson there, but it's not like Justin Fields lost the job to start the season. Like, Russell Wilson was hurt, but Justin Fields didn't necessarily lose the job, and they still brought Russell in.
Well, I think, too, Justin Fields is noticing, like, hold on a minute. I got options here to be a starting quarterback. Like, the Giants, if I'm Justin Fields, like, I want to go to New York. I want to either go to the Giants or the Jets. Like, I still think he's going to end up in Pittsburgh. If I had to guess, I think all of this is kind of smokescreen stuff. Mm-hmm. But good on him and his representation, recognizing that now that Darnold and Stafford are settled, as I think Darnold's headed to Seattle, then, I mean, there are some pretty greedy and desperate teams out there.
Yeah, and he could get, like you said, he could get more money in that situation as well. It could be a situation where we're looking at Pittsburgh in the end when they could be the team that really gets the joke's on you now.
Right.
So.
It is very interesting. It feels like they're the teams in the win now mode more than anybody within all of this. The teams that are not just rebuilding are the Giants because they've got a head coach and a GM that are on very hot seats, and the Pittsburgh Steelers who need a quarterback. Those two teams, Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy. Seattle, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if are you in a rebuild? Are you looking to go with Darnold? It feels like Darnold is the guy. It feels like John Schneider wouldn't have moved Geno Smith without having a really tangible
backup
plan B and a plan of what he was willing to do. But again, like one team willing to overpay for Sam Darnold could change all of that.
And we know that he's the most popular guy in free agency in terms of quarterback. So, yeah, absolutely. And any team could do that. Here's one name I keep hearing people want just an explanation in the chat is Jimmy Garoppolo. Why aren't people talking about Jimmy G? Something that I hadn't even really thought about when it comes down to it.
I think, again, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be in the Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson tier of guys who are most likely to be backup quarterbacks. I mean, since 2022, Jimmy Garoppolo has played in 7 games, or has started 7 games. In 2023, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a 77.7 quarterback rating. Made 1 start last season, 27 of 41, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, but was not significantly good the last time he was a starter in 2022 with San Fran. He's fine.
He's just not, when it comes down to it, it's just wild to think about, but like, he's just not played a lot of games recently.
No, he's never healthy,
right?
and
never healthy.
He's a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's what he is. Coming up, let's play a guessing game of where quarterbacks are going to end up, including the Titans. This thing, for people that are in the know nationally, is a total crapshoot. This will probably age very poorly, and it probably won't get all done today. But where do we think the quarterbacks are going to end up around the NFL? We'll give you our best guesses next. RKW is brewed by Scooter's Coffee. Wrapping up hour 3 this morning with locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. We'll get you up on the latest headlines as we roll into hour 4 coming up, plus an announcement from 104.5 The Zone coming up at 9 o'clock as well. Stay tuned for that. So our best guesses on where quarterbacks end up. This is challenging, to say the least, on who goes where in the NFL. So, Kayla, let's start with the easiest one, the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
Feels obvious, right?
It does. Sam Darnold.
I believe Sam Darnold's going to be your quarterback next year.
I don't know how
Seattle.
I feel about that, Will, personally. I'll bring a little of my personal, bias into that. But he's the best on the market. So I'll sit back and I'll say, you know what? He's younger in terms of he's not that old yet.
Sure.
I mean, Geno Smith was getting up there in age.
Sure.
So if they can continue to make the magic of Sam Darnold happen in the Pacific Northwest, I'm in. But I hope he doesn't go back to the Sam Darnold of what we knew.
It does feel like if you really wanted a middle-of-the-road quarterback, you should have just kept the one you already had. I know. Geno Smith is more expensive and older than Sam Darnold, so maybe that is the reason enough to get rid of him right there. But again, I don't know. A little weird. I do think Darnold ends up in Seattle.
Yep.
I think that's where this is trending.
Same.
The New York Jets. Where do they go? I think it's really interesting.
You want this one?
I am going to guess that Russell Wilson is the New York Jets quarterback.
Okay. I'm probably going to flip spots with you on this one,
Okay.
on where these two might be. So I'm going with Justin Fields.
Okay.
So not just because of the interest that has been drummed up now by the New York Jets. By the way, I do feel like they'd pay a little more to get Justin Fields there. Also, Garrett Wilson has been not happy in the New York Jets organization as of recently. Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson spent 2 seasons together at The Ohio State. And I feel like could be a good match at the New York Jets. So
Potentially. They did trade, or they did get rid of Devontae Adams, though, so there's nobody else to take targets away from Garrett Wilson anymore. Because he wanted to be wide receiver 1, and he definitely is now.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
But just a
Interesting.
connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Giants. I still think it's Aaron Rodgers to the Giants.
Me too. I'm with you on that.
I think all of the Steelers stuff, the Seattle rumblings for Rodgers, at the end of the day, I think he's going to do
Couldn't that drum up his price too in New York in terms of what the Giants could give him contract wise, since there's all these other things up here out there that, this team could be interested. Don't you think then the Giants would be like, well, maybe we need to give this guy a little bit more or a longer contract or whatever it might be?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think, if I'm Rodgers, I'd rather retire than be a New York Giant. But it's a fair point. Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be the case. Steelers. I said it. I think it's Justin Fields. I think he ends up going back there. I think a lot of this other stuff is interesting. This is just where it gets tricky, right? We have no idea behind closed doors how offended Justin Fields really is by the Steelers shopping a little bit. I'd be pretty upset if I were him, but I think ultimately cooler heads prevail and he ends up back where he was.
And this is where we switch spots, because I was thinking about it, and it's so much lies out there. So many lies. I'd almost want Russell Wilson to now be available to come to the Titans so that Cam Ward could be drafted and he could be the mentor.
Right.
Because I think it makes sense. But I have a feeling that the Steelers want Russ Wilson back. He's got the DK Metcalf connection. By the way, just a fun little side note. Y'all know how I like to bring these. Sierra actually introduced DK Metcalf and his significant other back in Seattle.
Sure.
So all the little fun little things that go along with it. But I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, if Justin is unhappy with exactly what he thinks he's going to get there, Russell Wilson still doesn't know his future. They know they have familiarity in DK and Russ. I guess Russ goes back there.
And then that leaves your Tennessee Titans.
No. I'm sorry, guys.
Who do you think the Titans end up with on a best guess, either today or this week in NFL free agency?
Mac Jones. I'm
I agree.
serious.
I think the Titans are on the Mac Jones path. I think he is a better fit than Zach Wilson, who Buck Rising also says he's hearing for the Titans. for the system. I think it's Mac Jones. I really do.
I do too. And I know that fans do not want to hear that. I get it completely. And you hope then the only other thing that you're looking forward to is the fact that maybe they draft a quarterback at number 1 overall. But I just don't know anything right now what this organization is doing because they're keeping things so close to the vest that I wouldn't even be surprised if they didn't take a quarterback and just rolled with Mac Jones, Will Levis, and maybe bring in another guy to compete for that backup spot.
At what point, if Mac Jones is the best other option, at what point does Will Levis then become a bigger part of this conversation? Do you think no matter what, they are out on him and they would rather have just anyone else come in? Or do you think there's any scenario where Will Levis can beat out a Zach Wilson or Mac Jones type and be a starting quarterback for the Titans when week 1 happens in 2025?
This is not, let me make this very clear, this is not what I want to happen, fans. I want Cam Ward in here in this battle no matter what, but I do believe that if you take Mac Jones and they do pass up on a quarterback in this draft, I do believe that this will be an open competition. And that, not saying they think that Will Levis can win it, but they're going to give him the opportunity. They've even said they're going to give Will the opportunity to compete this year. And I see at this point with so much in terms of uncertainty out there with free agency, not a lot of good options. You have to have a quarterback room. And right now, this is what they have.
Yeah, I think they're totally out on Levis. I don't think there's any scenario where they are coming back to him unless they have to because of injury, or it's a situation like when the Jets signed Rodgers but still had to throw Zach Wilson out there after Rodgers got hurt. That to me is what I see. I think they are bringing in one of these other guys to be ahead of him, and that maybe a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward is coming in as well. But I still think that they are very out on Will Levis, and
they should be. I mean, let's be honest. What did he do to improve last year when given multiple opportunities? Nothing.
Yeah, no. He threw away his shot.
And the only reason, literally, the only reason why I say he's in the mix right now, Will, is because I have no other backing to show me who else is here. And I just don't know if even Mac Jones can win a job here.
We'll see. I'm very interested to see what the reporting is around whoever they sign. Because I think we will get some clarity. You know, is Mac Jones or Zach Wilson being brought in to be a competitor for the starting quarterback job? Are they a bridge quarterback for Cam Ward? Are they, the backup to Will Levis? A lot we don't know, and a lot we will potentially find out today. No doubt about it for the Titans on the free agent quarterback market. Your phone calls and reaction at 615-737-1045, plus YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch at the F&M Big Chat. You can send their comments in there, where the people are not thrilled to be told that Zach Wilson and Mac Jones are the two names people are hearing, Buck Rising specifically for the quarterback position. We'll get you more headlines, the latest rumblings this morning from national folks, as well as an announcement from 104.5 The Zone coming up next. 9 o'clock in Nashville, Tennessee. Good morning for the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Will Bowling. Today at 11 a.m. Central, you got 2 hours, folks. Legal tampering begins. NFL free agency, it is here today. And over the weekend, many teams made some big moves as they prepare for the start of free agency. The Steelers, they pick up DK Metcalf from the Seahawks for a 2025 second-round pick. The team's exchanging day 3 selections as well. They also signed the former Ole Miss Rebel to a 5-year, $150 million extension. Metcalf requested a trade officially to Seattle on March the 5th. Devontae Adams lands with the Rams, a 2-year deal in L.A. The team announced yesterday. Last season, he had 67 catches for 854 yards, 7 touchdowns in 11 games for the New York Jets. Harold Landry has a deal with former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel in New England. 3 years, $43.5 million with the Patriots. That includes $26 million guaranteed. Last season, he had his 3rd consecutive year with at least 9 sacks, including a career-high 12 in 2021. In hoops, we know the SEC tournament draw here in Nashville starting on Wednesday. For Tennessee, they will start on Friday by way of a 75-65 win over South Carolina. The Vols are the 4 seed. They will get the winner of Texas A&M versus the winner of Vandy and Texas. That game on Wednesday after Vanderbilt falls 79-68 at Georgia. They will be the SEC tournament 12 seed beginning in the middle of this week. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. RKW on 104.5 The Zone rolls into the 4th and final hour on your Monday morning. We are brewed by Scooters Coffee. Visit your local Middle Tennessee Scooters locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. No Ramon this morning. He'll be back with us on Wednesday. Kayla Anderson and Will Bowling, Justin Hawkins with you. As 104.5 The Zone makes an announcement this morning. Here as we begin hour number 4, join 104.5 The Zone for our 2025 Golf Classic presented by Ferguson on Monday, June 9th at Nashville Golf and Athletic Club. Monday, June 9th, the 104.5 The Zone Golf Classic, located in the heart of Cool Springs. This historic golf course features breathtaking panoramic views of the beautiful Middle Tennessee countryside. The 2025 Golf Classic will be highlighted with great food, cocktails, prizes, and special guests. You can purchase your team today and choose between 2 flights, 8 a.m. or 1 p.m. Spend the day teeing off with us. For more info or to purchase a team, visit 1045thezone.com. That is June 9th, Nashville Golf and Athletic Club. I love that course. And a great opportunity to play one of the best courses in the state, not just Middle Tennessee, but in the state of Tennessee, June 9th. Can't wait.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Really pretty course out there. I have not been to that one,
Love
but
it.
I will take your word that it's a good one. You also mentioned Brent Snedeker kind of likes that course in terms of being a course he plays at. So.
Pretty much everybody who is a golfer in Nashville has got to play there loves it.
Yeah, so come join us. Only one this year, so let's do it big.
Love it. Looking forward to that. 2025 Golf Classic, June 9th. Not a good day for X to be down.
What is going on?
I am going to call it X because I'm talking bad about it.
Me too.
It's not Twitter today. Twitter would have never let this happen. X is down on a major NFL breaking news day. I imagine Roger Goodell is on the phone with Elon Musk as we speak.
I would think so. I mean, come on now. This is where we get our information. It is weird, though, Will. Like, I do feel like I am in the dark right now because, especially with this radio show, when we are updating the people every minute and you don't have your source that gets the most information on that soon, you feel like you're in the dark. So.
I wasn't going to get Blue Sky. Maybe I'm going to have to now.
I don't know if that information would come that quick.
No other options. Right now, I guess Threads. Remember when everyone thought we were going to get on Threads?
Threads. Yeah, that didn't work.
On Instagram. I think I posted on it once the day it came out and never opened it again.
Nope. I used it 2 times.
Not a single time.
So now I guess we just have to rely on our phones, like that give us breaking news, but it usually comes down like minutes after.
Just the ESPN app is the only way, I guess, that they could get push notifications. Yeah. Tough. So the news this morning, if you missed it, Buck Rising saying on Twitter, I would go read it word for word, but it's down right now. The names he is hearing for the Titans at quarterback are Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. How do we feel about that, Titans fans? How do we feel about that?
Good. I think most of the people that we've heard from either in the F&M Big Chat, which you can always stream live. We're on there on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.
Not Twitter right now.
Not Twitter right now.
Facebook
though,
Live, YouTube, and Twitch if you want to watch the show.
But a lot of people not happy with the two names that have been linked to the Titans. And again, there hasn't been a lot that's been leaked out to the media, whether that be national media or local media, with what the Titans are doing in free agency and beyond. So when you do hear those two names, there is a lot of probably truth in one of those guys possibly being a quarterback that you bring in, since there is only one guy in the quarterback room right now, and that is Will Levis.
To me, it either means that the Titans are really, really, really hell-bent on not spending a lot of money at quarterback and would rather just go with the second or third tier of free agents versus having money dedicated down the road, or it means they want to back up for Cam Ward.
Yep.
That, to me, is what it means at this point. As of today, with what we know, and if those two guys really are the option for the Titans at quarterback, it, A, points to Cam Ward being the pick, or, let's play the other side of it, it really does keep your options open to trading back to number 3. Because we have been talking for weeks that if the Titans were going to trade the number 1 overall pick and sign Sam Darnold and sign one of these veterans, they needed to trade the pick before they could sign one of these veteran quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Because the second they do that, in my opinion, the price goes down a little bit. If you sign Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, you could still sit there and trade that number 1 pick because you would still need a quarterback and your demand is still higher for that selection than if you sign Sam Darnold. And the Giants could sit there and say, like, well, why would we give you a lot for the number 1 pick? You could just play Sam Darnold. You don't need Cam Ward. So at that point, like, just give him to us, and we'll just pay you some pennies and move up to 1, and that'll be it. So easy to overthink these things. It might literally just be as simple as they want a bridge quarterback for Cam Ward, and that might be the most likely scenario, honestly, at this point.
I mean, they're playing the game more if that's the case, and they can hold their cards closer to their vest, because you're exactly right. If they were to sign one of these bigger name quarterbacks that probably is going to get more of a multi-year deal, Sam Darnold, then you're going to kind of spill the beans on what you're probably planning on doing in the draft, which is not taking a quarterback, and then that weakens the bag that you could get if a team trades up. So at this spot, it still leaves teams wondering, well, I mean, they still probably are going to draft a quarterback.
Yep. No, you're not that guy this morning. We'll get back to that next week. We've got a full crew here and less news to react to. We're going to talk with Vol Network analyst Bert Bertelkamp coming up in 10 minutes. Congratulating him on his retirement from being the Vol Network's basketball analyst, but also diving into the SEC tournament that begins on Wednesday. So looking forward to doing that. Let's go next to Bobby, who is next up on the phones in Nashville this morning. What's up, Bobby?
Hey, I want you guys' opinion. I have no personal preference on the quarterback here this year because we need an O-line bigger than we need a quarterback. Any quarterback that comes here knows they're going to get beat up because we don't have any defense on the right side. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Bobby. O-line options. I mean, this show, and Kayla specifically, has been on the Morgan Moses train for a while. Diana Rossini put out some teams that are expected to be interested in Morgan Moses. The Titans were not one of them,
right,
according to her reporting. So at this point, it does feel like they are signing, in my opinion, one starter and one guy that's a bridge or maybe a backup. I think they sign a right guard to be the starter, and I think they are drafting a right tackle and maybe signing a veteran right tackle to compete with them as well.
Yeah, I think just what we know for sure is they're going to have to add depth no matter what at that spot. And I even think, Will, whether you go right tackle signing a veteran or right guard and bringing them in to start, they're still going to draft those positions. Because I just think the future, you're going to need your guy in the future because most of those vets that are out there in terms of the line, they're older. right?
Sure.
And even including Morgan Moses. But I do think they could use some veteran leadership in this next year or so, and then you still can go get some guys in the draft.
One veteran we thought might be an option here will not be a free agent after all. Nick Bolton yesterday, Kansas City Chiefs linebacker, agreed to a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million fully guaranteed at signing to remain in Kansas City. 25-year-old today, actually, Nick Bolton, has started 53 of the 57 games he started since the Chiefs drafted him in the second round in 2021. Was someone I was certainly in on, and will not be available after all. I think a bit of a surprise from a lot of people in Kansas City that the Chiefs were willing to give him $15 million a year.
Yeah, I didn't expect him necessarily to go back there. I mean, you had brought him up as a guy that you really liked in terms of bringing in a linebacker and somebody who could probably make a difference here too when they need that. But yeah, I didn't expect the Kansas City Chiefs to necessarily bring him back for that.
Bills reward Josh Allen with a 6-year, $330 million contract yesterday. That is through the 2030 season and includes $250 million guaranteed, according to Adam Schefter. That is the total, largest total guaranteed money ever given to an NFL player, surpassing the Deshaun Watson total of $230 million. He was signed through 2028. They tack out a couple more years. Josh Allen will be 34 when the final year of this extension hits.
And that actually, when you bring that up, Will, because I know people hear the number and are like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But in this day and age, with how they're getting more money every single year with the TV deals and everything, this is a good deal. I mean, he deserves it. He is proven to get, better every year, I feel like. And you just are 34 years old when your contract ends. That's still not that old nowadays for a quarterback. Heck, we're looking at some of these bridge quarterbacks to come in and still play.
Yeah, right. Totally. Albert Breer writing the cash flow pretty flat year over year for Josh Allen, giving the Bills a little more flexibility to spend. He says it's also an acknowledgement of the trust between the two sides. And Albert Breer continues to write at SI.com this morning. The relationship between Allen and the Bills is such that there is always a running conversation going on. Choosing to dive in and do this now was a result of that conversation. Said he is envisioned to spend his whole career there, or at least the vast majority of it. So Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Yep.
Perfect marriage.
It's been good.
For the Buffalo Bills.
He's had a big year, man. He got engaged. He's
the MVP of the NFL.
Yeah, you wish you could win a Super Bowl, but other than that, I'd take it.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Good year to be Josh Allen. Coming up, Bert Bertelkamp, Vol Network basketball analyst. He will join us previewing the SEC tournament and highlighting and reflecting on a magnificent career as the Vol Network basketball analyst coming up next. Hey, it's Will Bowling here from my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Now that March is here and warmer weather is approaching, many of us will find ourselves doing some more outside activities. That's gardening, attending sporting events. Maybe we're taking a nice dip in the pool. You're headed to the beach for the first time. Well, I want to tell you about a revolutionary new product, the Phonak Audiosphere. It's not only designed to help you hear when there's background noise, but it's also the only completely waterproof hearing aid on the market. Whether you're working up a sweat in the yard, maybe you're enjoying water activities with children or grandchildren, there's no longer a need to remove those hearing aids. Even around water, you can still participate in conversation. 615-377-0420. That's the number to call for a demonstration of the Phonak Sphere. Give them a call, 615-377-0420, or visit them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life. Hey, it's Will Bowling for my friends at Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Hey, if you're looking for cars, you can see the words buy here, pay here. Maybe you are looking elsewhere. And I get it. Those dealers, they come with certain reputations, right? Well, I'm here to tell you there is one place you can go, and the folks that I trust, Nolensville Road Auto Mart. They are different for a few simple reasons. Firstly, because they've been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. They're Nashville natives. That certainly means something to people like me who are from this city. They only sell clean title cars under 12 grand. So if you're new to town and you need a place to trust, they have got you. Maybe you need that first car for a 16-year-old in their family. They have got you there as well. You don't need to even take my word for it. Just look at the Google reviews. They are excellent. That's saying something for a car dealership. With one location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane, they will get you in and out in an hour or less. 615-242-1279 is the number. The best part, they're the oldest buy here, pay here in Nashville, and they work with your own financing if you have it. Flexibility, transparency, and honesty. That's why I recommend Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Give them a call at 615-242-1279. Rolling along through hour 4 this morning on RKW. We are brewed by Scooter's Coffee with locations in Brentwood, Goodlettsville, Mount Juliet, Smyrna, and White House. No Ramon this morning, meaning you got Kayla Anderson and myself, Will Bowling, as we are pleased to be joined by Vol Network color analyst for Tennessee basketball, the one and only Bert Bertelkamp, making some time for us today as the SEC tournament begins this week. Bert, first and foremost, congratulations on a fantastic career with the Vol Network. I know it must have been awesome getting recognized by the Thompson Bowling Arena crowd on Saturday.
It was great. It was really a great moment. We've had a great run, and it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we got some more games to play. I'm sure we do. But it was a great moment. My family was there. We thoroughly enjoyed it and appreciate all the great, kind words from the UT fans. It was special.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Well, Bert, who did you have to make a deal with to get 2 buzzer beaters for Tennessee games in one season? I know you were there with an iconic money call for Jemai Mashack a week ago against Alabama. Just what has it been like watching this team in some pretty dramatic finishes and crazy games, and especially that one against Alabama?
Well, the Alabama game was really something. Alabama, as you know, has got a great team. They look like a pro team out there. They're big and physical and long, and we fought them hard. And then Jemai, who's a great young man, stepped up in a big way, made a big three-pointer. He kind of went off script a little bit. I'm not sure the play was designed to go to him, but he made the play, and he hit the shot, and people are still talking about it. But it was a highlight for sure, and this team has been so much fun to watch. They're fine young men, number one, off the court. They got great character. They got great leadership, and they play hard, and they're fun to watch. And it's easy to pull for them. They're really good guys.
Bert, in a lot of ways, this Tennessee team is so much like some of the classic, outstanding Rick Barnes teams, the outstanding defense, and some excellent veteran guard play. What do you think Rick Barnes likes the most about this group, and what makes them unique as they head into tournament time?
Well, I think their chemistry and their culture that they built at UT, and these guys have carried on with that, being great defensive teams, show up every night, play hard, rebound the ball, and really give 100% effort. And when they're clicking on offense to go along with their defense and their rebounding, they can beat anybody. They really can. And I think the key to a long run in the postseason is it's our ability to execute our offense and make shots, because our defense has been consistent throughout the season. We're a good rebounding team, and as I mentioned, we always play hard, but sometimes we don't shoot the ball that well. We don't execute our offense properly, but when they do that, they're hard to beat. They really are, and you got a strong Middle Tennessee player, Chaz Lanier, who's had a super season, and if he continues to play the way he's been playing, hitting shots, spreading the floor with his three-pointers, it could be a great postseason for Tennessee.
We are joined by Bert Bertelkamp of the Vol Network here this morning on RKW, talking a little hoops, and we've got hoops starting here in Nashville on Wednesday. Bert, I know that the Vols do not play till Friday, but what can you expect out of this tournament?
It's going to be a grind. There's so many great teams in the SEC. It's probably the best the league's ever been. And the teams, obviously, they know each other so well by now. Many have played twice, but you played everybody at least once. They know what each other is going to do. There may be some new wrinkles thrown in, but it's going to be survival of the fittest, because you got to go up against great teams every night. Even if you get a bye to a double bye to Friday, like Tennessee has, you still got to play well, and we're going to face 3 excellent teams no matter who they are, and you got to be at the top of your game. Of course, the NCAA tournament is the big prize, but the SEC tournament's the second biggest prize, I would think, with the strength of the league and the tremendous coaches in the league and all the great players. It's going to be a blast. If you like basketball, you need to be in Nashville this weekend.
I think that's what is so interesting, Bert, is people like to pick a side on what you should do coming into a tournament. And some people think, well, it's not, the tournaments, you can't put much into them anymore. When you look at Tennessee and their path, moving forward into the NCAA tournament, they're going to be in. But is there anything that they could do that could benefit them in this tournament?
Well, they want to play well. Obviously, if you lose early, there's one train of thought is you get rest and you get to go home and get ready for the NCAA tournament, which no one chooses that. No one wants to lose, but it's some consolation if you do lose. But if you win, obviously you carry a tremendous amount of momentum into the NCAA tournament. And like I mentioned, you're going to have to play three teams, really good teams. Tennessee will to get to the two to get to the finals, three to win it. And I think the momentum would be the main thing, and the confidence, because we'll have to be at the top of our game to beat those three teams. And I think that'll give us a lot of momentum going into the NCAA tournament.
Bert Bertelkamp of the Vol Network, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Bert, you mentioned that maybe new wrinkles from teams and things that they want to do differently and things they want to add this time of year. What could Tennessee maybe add to their repertoire and do a little bit differently, in your opinion? Is there anything that jumps out of an area where they can reinvent themselves a little bit this time of year?
Well, Coach Barnes will probably have a few wrinkles with the offense, some different sets. I don't think defensively, unless we were to come out in some sort of a trap, he doesn't like to play zone. We're strictly a man-to-man team, so I don't see much changing on defense. We rely on tremendous ball pressure on the perimeter to keep the ball out of the paint and to keep the dribble penetration down. So that's the key for us. But he'll probably put some new sets, some new inbounds plays, and some things that no one's seen before, would be my guess. I mean, he's such a great coach and such a veteran of all these tournaments that he'll have a plan. They'll have a plan, and hopefully they can execute that plan. We've got a senior-dominated team. They've been there before. They're experienced. They play well together. So I expect them to play well, and there'll be a wrinkle or two. I don't know what they are, but probably more on the offensive end than the defensive end.
Bert, it's interesting watching Felix Okpara, and if you had told me in March that he's a guy that Tennessee could just throw it down to him, if you told me in November, in March, that you could just throw it down back to the basket, let him just go get a bucket. I looked at you like you were crazy, but his improvement this season, Bert, just how rare is that for how long and how far he's come to really improve on that offensive end through this season?
Well, I know Felix has worked extremely hard. One of the assistant coaches, Brian Lentz, has worked with the big men on an individual basis, and I asked him the very same question you asked me about Felix's improvement. He said it's just hard work. He comes to the gym. He when he's out on the court, he's 100%, 110%, and he's always been that way. But he's really improved with his offense. He keeps his hands higher. He rebounds with two hands. When he first got here, he was a one-handed rebounder and pretty much a shot blocker, but he's added some offense, and he's a tremendous finisher around the basket, especially on lobs, and his timing is good, and he's still a formidable defensive player. That's his strength. So he's added a lot to the team. He really has, and he's gotten better throughout the season, and hopefully he'll continue to play that way.
Bert Bertelkamp joining us this morning on RKW. We're talking a little hoops as we get close to March Madness. We have the SEC tournament here in Nashville this week. When it comes to the NCAA tournament, Bert, and we all know that it's all about matchups in that situation. Right now, I think Joe Lunardi has Tennessee in the Midwest region where Houston would possibly be the number one seed. Any matchup that you would want to avoid, I guess, if you were the Vols?
I can't think of any. We feel like we can play with anybody. Big physical teams tend to give us trouble that can really rebound the ball and pound the glass. Because if we have a weakness, it's inside. We've got good players, but we don't have a lot of good players. We don't have much depth. J.P. Estrella's been out all season with an injury, and we miss him a lot. But obviously they've gotten used to playing without him. So we play small sometimes, and like Ole Miss the other night when we lost, they just beat us on the glass, on the offensive glass. And so a team that's an aggressive rebounding team that gets a lot of points off their offensive rebounds, those teams give us trouble. I can't really name any right now, but most of the teams in the SEC would fall into that category. So it comes down to our strength, our speed, and our defensive ability against other teams' power. and hopefully we can come out on the top end of that.
Bert Bertelkamp with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Bert, I'm putting you on the spot here with this one, but I'm sure it's a question you've been asked a lot over the last couple of days. As you think back on some of the iconic Tennessee basketball moments that you've been able to watch in your time working with Bob Kessling as the analyst for the Vol Network, what is your one or two favorite moments that you have been on the mic for as you look back on these seasons you've been there?
Well, one of them would be in the SEC tournament when we won the tournament down in Tampa.
Yeah,
I think it was 22. I think it was 22.
Yep.
And that was certainly a highlight. We played very well then. And another would be in the SEC tournament in Nashville. It was Grant Williams' junior year, I believe. The year Auburn actually won the tournament, but we had a tremendous. I think it was a double overtime game with Kentucky in the semifinals. It was just a tremendous game. And there's been a lot of battles. A lot of them were rivalry games against Kentucky when we've come out on the good side, knocking them off at Rupp Arena several times. That's certainly been a highlight. But there's been so many, too many to remember when you're an old man like me. But we've had a lot of great victories, and hopefully we'll have a few more this year.
Well, Bert, on the way out, I know Bob Kessling, a final run for him as well as the voice of the Vols, and I know he has mentioned before, hey, John Ward got to go out with a Tennessee football championship. I told Rick Barnes and Josh Heupel, well, we're going to get one ourselves. Just what can you say about your broadcast partner and Bob? And I know just a pillar of the Knoxville community and as good of a person as he is broadcaster. Just what has it been like working with him these years?
Well, he's been the main reason I've hung on and done this, played as the color man for 26 years. My relationship with him is strong. We're good friends. He's a strong Christian man. He is a great community guy. He donates time and money to lots of different charities around town. He's a great family man, and I can't say enough good things about Bob. And being his partner all these years has been a blast. We haven't had a cross word in 26 years. He used to kick me under the table some when I'd say things I shouldn't say. You can't say that on the air. So he had some work to do on me to get me where I am today. But he's been a great friend, and I'll miss working with him. But we'll remain friends forever. And I can't say enough good things about Bob.
Bert Bertelkamp, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, Vault Network color analyst. Bert, again, congratulations. A fantastic run, 26 years. That you have been an iconic voice growing up for so many Tennessee fans, for myself and so many others listening to us this morning. Appreciate you making time for us, and I hope you get that Final Four run or national title run here on the way out.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me on. You all have a great day.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Bert Bertelkamp joining us this morning here on 104.5 The Zone as he sets the table for the SEC tournament. He does still hold, Bert does, an NCAA tournament record.
Really?
Have you heard about this?
No.
16 assists, March 8th, 1980.
Wow.
Against Maryland, the NCAA tournament record for assists in a single game. If there is any player that could potentially scare that record, it's Sakai Ziegler, who I believe was on pace for 20 assists against Ole Miss before he got a little bit in foul trouble over last week. So, 16 assists in 1980. People mentioned it last week. People do not appreciate how good Bert Bertelkamp, the point guard, was for Tennessee and guard was. He was tremendous on those 80s Vols teams.
Such an incredible, thing to look back in terms of anybody's career and know that you were able to play for that school. Then you were going on to have a very successful broadcasting career with a longtime partner as well, doing it right next to you in Bob Kessling. I mean, you could only write these things up sometimes in storybook endings, and it looks like, if the Vols could even make a Final Four, that would be such a cool ending for those two in particular.
It'd be awesome. I want it for Bob and Bert so bad.
Yeah.
Beyond just being a Tennessee fan, obviously, I want the Vols to make the Final Four. And, they're good enough to win the whole thing. But I would love that for Bob and Bert. Just great people, great broadcasters, and certainly been good resources to us. So appreciate Bert making time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff indeed. And we'll see them all here this week because we got SEC tournament in Nashville right down the road.
Looking forward to it. So X is back up Again,
Yes, it
we're
is.
talking bad about it. It's X. When we're actually mentioning it seriously, it's Twitter.
Now it's Twitter.
Headlines to catch up on.
got
So
plenty.
let's start with the tight end note. One guy the Titans could be interested in. I know many people certainly have some interest in Evan Ingram, who, according to his agent, will visit the Denver Broncos today.
Yes.
Was released by Jacksonville last week. Since he was released, he can get a head start. Similarly to the way the Titans released Harold Landry, he is open to sign with anyone.
And I look at him in terms of, yes, you hear the name Evan Ingram, and I think a lot of Titans fans are not super impressed by the Chig Okonkwo, Josh Wiley regime. And I think people feel like they should add another tight end, which, by the way, they could still do to the draft because there is a deep tight end class here.
Sure.
But I look at Evan Ingram. He has had games against the Titans where he's done very well, particularly in that 2023 season. He kind of revamped his career. But you guys, he only played 9 games last season. Only 365 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. His production went significantly down. So, and by the way, if you think that Mac Jones is going to be here throwing to him too, like that didn't work there either.
We'll see. Yeah, banged up last year. I was only really with Mac Jones for that one season a year ago. But yeah, 963 yards in a Pro Bowl season in 2023 at age 29. He will be 31 when the season begins. Evan Ingram. Elsewhere, J.C. Horn, Panthers corner, huge extension, 4 years, $100 million, $70 million guaranteed. Again, Carolina, one of the cash-rich organizations with David Tepper, who might be, one of the most rich agents in the league in the NFL. They locked down him. The Falcons releasing defensive tackle Grady Jarrett.
Just saw that.
2024 Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. He heads to the market. He has spent every year of his 10-year career with Atlanta. That is interesting to me for the Titans.
It is, and that's the thing. Anything on that line in terms of adding to it in free agency especially, I was telling Justin this during the break on one of them. I said, don't be surprised at some point this week if you see the main ads being on both sides of the line, because that's one thing that Borgonzi had mentioned they've got to start working on up front on both the defense and offensive side. So, yeah, that would be intriguing. Potentially.
Yeah, it could be something the Titans are certainly in the mix of. Guys like that, though, who are going to hit the market in their first phrase is Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, to me intrigues me because Mike Borgonzi is on the record that he wants leadership. He wants veterans that with a young team can mentor a lot of the young players that are about to be brought in here. Again, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, that's one part of the equation. But at the same time, that's leadership that this franchise and this organization desperately needs at this point. Grady Jarrett would be interesting to me.
He would.
No doubt.
And arguingly on the other side to argue that, I think you need just as much on the offensive line. I know that they've got Lloyd Christianberry, but my goodness, you've got to bring in some veterans that have some sort of leadership ability.
All right, we have a Titans signing this morning.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Stop the presses.
Beep. Beep.
This would not work the Laser Light Show. With respect to our VFL brother, Morgan Cox is back with the Titans.
I'm happy about this one, though.
1 year, $1.42 million with $167,000 signing bonus. Veteran minimum salary benefit.
Absolutely.
There's your long snapper.
You can keep the special teams unit back for another year. Do it.
Now just go sign a kicker. You got the guy to snap it to him.
Absolutely.
Now you need a holder, punter, and a kicker. With Ryan Stonehouse obviously expected to be back. He is an RFA.
He's a restricted free agent.
There is one position that I think will be the one that pops off the most when tampering begins. Last year it was running back. This year there's reporting about what that position is going to be when legal tampering opens up right at 11 o'clock. And we'll talk about that next.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
It's Ramon and Kayla here for Window Nation, man. Telling you
trucks,
need to
all
relieve
the
yourself of
trucks,
high heating
all
costs
the
this winter.
trims, all
And
the
Window Nation can help you
towing,
with that. They're
all the bells
affordable,
and
high
whistles,
quality,
and
energy
all
efficient
at
windows,
truck
Kayla, will
month
keep the heat
savings.
inside,
Rivers
lower your
Ford
monthly
is
utility bills,
Ford
and keep
Truck
your home
Central.
comfortable year round, Miss Anderson.
That is right, Mr. Foster,
Yay,
because
yay.
guess what? People, unlike just us, they're talking about Window Nation right now. Their windows frequently outperform and outlast the ones from the expensive guys, and they are going to give you more of the heat you're paying for that's going to stay inside your home. So if you want to do the right thing here in March, and at some point you're going to be turning on your AC and wanting to keep that in, go ahead and schedule a fast free estimate with the pros at Window Nation, 866-90Nation, or simply go online to windownation.com.
Wrapping up the show on your Monday morning, RKW. We are brewed up by Scooter's Coffee right here on 104.5 The Zone. All around Middle Tennessee, White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooter's Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. There is a position, Kayla, I think is going to be the one that goes off first in the NFL today. Jordan Schultz says the safety market will be one to watch today with strong lead-wide interest in Trayvon Merrick, Javon Holland, and Cam Bynum. He says expect solid deals for all three. Last year's running backs. Tony Pollard was the first move the Titans made. Derrick Henry was settled quickly. Saquon Barkley. All the other running back moves that ended up being significant dominoes. I think safety might be that position today.
You're not wrong because there's a lot of good ones and a lot of guys that are younger. I think last year the difference in the safety market, which again, they needed a safety last year, they ended up signing Quandre Diggs, who I would not be totally opposed to, by the way, signing again. However, if you want to get a little younger at that spot, since Amani Hooker is, on his second contract, and he's been, banged up a little bit here and there. This is a good free agent class to go out and grab someone. I like these guys. The only problem that Schultz is saying, expect solid deals for all three of the guys you just mentioned. We know that money is not necessarily a thing for this franchise, but it's not necessarily something they're going to go out and just spend to spend in free agency. Yep. So maybe there's one position they feel would be worth it. I personally feel like you could invest in a young safety right now, but I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Khalil Mack has just agreed to a 1-year fully guaranteed $18 million deal with the LA Chargers.
Oh, geez.
So Chargers getting back their pass rusher, Khalil Mack.
Okay.
Of course, no more Joey Bosa in LA, and there is another piece for Harbaugh to get back in a Chargers uniform, a uniform he's already worn.
Mm-hmm.
Solid. Absolutely. It does feel like the Titans are not going to be super active today. If they want to live in the 1-year deal, veteran, no more than $10 million a year world, they can find a lot of those guys in, May.
Yeah.
In June. As free agency continues. So anything can happen. Obviously, they may prioritize one big position they are willing to spend on, like you said. But Titans fans, I would not get your hopes up today being a very busy one for your local professional football team.
What we do know, Will, after the Rand Carthon, experiment ended, is that they're going in a way different direction in terms of how they want to sign these free agents. And I think it's exciting sometimes when you had a year like last year in free agency where you had a lot of the big names that were coming here, and it does get you excited. Now, did that equal out to production? Not necessarily. But it's going to be tough too for this too, because even if you'll get some of these names that you know about, it's going to be a longer road to get to where you want to get to if you're the Titans. I think we just all have to kind of accept that at this point. And that includes the quarterback position, because I just don't know where they're going after just hearing the interest was in Zach Wilson and Mac Jones today in free agency.
We'll see. They could really be trying to mislead all of us, or it could just be that this is legitimately how quiet they want to be in free agency, and the fact that it's not a good free agent class anyway. Not a premier group of players that you have to pick from. So interested to see what happens in just over an hour. A good day to be locked into the Buck Rising Show. Blaine and Zach with Cover 2 and with 3HL. Congratulations to Eddie George, the new head coach at Bowling Green. Now, we mentioned it last week. Bowling Green's head coach going to be on the Philadelphia Eagles staff, an opening there, and Eddie George getting to go back to the state where he won the Heisman Trophy.
Good for Eddie George, because while I am going to hate it for the loss of TSU and just HBCU in general to represent that, because I think he was great representation of what you can do with the program and to get eyes on the program. I think he's ultimately wanting to climb his way up in the league of coaching, and I think he's proving he can do that. So great opportunity for him back in the state of Ohio, where he played college football at Ohio State. I know a lot of people are excited for him to be in the state in general, since they love football up there. So good for him.
It's great. certainly will be able to recruit the state of Ohio, no doubt about it. Difficult to win in the MAC. That's a hard place to go, but I think certainly an exciting move for him.
Yeah, and if he can win there, Will, in the MAC, like you mentioned, he could get a big-time job.
Certainly. Certainly could. So looking forward to that. Shout out as well yesterday to Lipscomb as the Bisons booked their ticket to the NCAA tournament, winning the Atlantic Sun over North Alabama yesterday. The atmosphere in Allen Arena was absolutely electric. I saw Jerry Meyer on Twitter say it felt like old Battle of the Boulevard level electricity in that building. I remember when we had Casey Alexander before the Battle of the Boulevard earlier this season. He told us before Belmont played them and ended up beating them, saying this might be the best Lipscomb team ever. Yeah. And he obviously coached there for a few years and has coached against and played against some really good Lipscomb teams. But congratulations to the Bisons. They will represent the city of Nashville, the state of Tennessee in the NCAA tournament. Hoops in a good place in the state of Tennessee right now.
It really is.
Really good place.
And we don't get to give the love as much as we want to because we talk so much about the pro sports here, but well-deserved in terms of what they did this season to represent basketball here.
Belmont falling to a very highly touted Drake up at one point in that game. Drake getting the best of them at the end. TSU in the semis of the OVC. As you had a lot of Middle Tennessee representation, of course, in addition to Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Memphis, who will be in the NCAA tournament. So good year for Volunteer State Hoops.
Absolutely.
Love it. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Let the games begin in just over an hour for NFL, legal tampering, and free agency. A great day to have it locked in. 104.5 The Zone and the Buck Rising Show has you covered. Coming up next.